2 seconds before my life ended, I was winning. Final boss, no-hit run, 3 a.m., my thumbs on autopilot, and my brain 3 moves ahead of the game like always. That's the one thing I've ever been good at. Not sports, not talking to people, not anything my dad ever cared about. Just this. Give me a system with rules, and I'll find the crack in it faster than the people who wrote it. Then the floor of my bedroom turned into light. I don't mean the screen flared. I mean the actual floor, the carpet, the cheap laminate under it lit up with a circle of symbols that hadn't been there a heartbeat before, glowing gold and pulsing like something breathing. My controller dropped. I remember that. I remember thinking, absurdly, that's a paused game. I'm going to lose my streak, right up until the light reached up and swallowed me whole. There's a stretch after that I can't account for. No falling, no wind, no sound. Like the game hard cut to a loading screen and forgot to show me the bar. Then stone under my knees, cold, real, gritty, and chanting. I open my eyes to a hall the size of a cathedral, and it's full of people staring at me. Robes. Dozens of them, arranged in tiered rings around a raised floor, all in the same deep crimson trimmed with gold, hoods back so I can see their faces, and every single face is doing the same thing. Leaning forward, hungry, like a crowd the instant before a coin flip lands. I'm inside another circle. Same golden symbols, bigger, carved into a polished floor that reflects torchlight in long smears. The air smells like incense and hot metal. My knees hurt. My mouth is dry. My controller is not in my hands, and I am very, very not in my bedroom. Okay, I think. New game. Read the rules. That's not bravery. I want to be clear about that. My hands are shaking so hard I have to press them flat against the stone. But panic is a state, and states pass, and the fastest way through one is to start collecting information, so I start collecting. 1. They were expecting something. This is a ritual, and I'm the payload. 2. They wanted it badly. You don't build a room this size around a maybe. 3. The hunger on their faces isn't personal. Nobody here knows me. They're not looking at Kazama Yuta. They're looking at what I might be. A woman steps onto the raised floor. She's younger than the rest, maybe mid-20s, but the way the room reorients around her tells me she's the one who matters. White and gold instead of crimson, silver hair pinned up severe, a face that would be beautiful if it weren't set like something carved to survive weather. She looks at me the way I look at a boss on the second attempt measuring, already discounting my surprises. "Speak the appraisal," she says. Not to me. An old priest scuttles forward with a slab of dark glass held in both hands like it's fragile and holy. He passes it over me the way you'd wave a scanner. Light flickers under the surface, symbols I can't read scroll and settle. And then, in my own head, in perfectly clean Japanese, a voice that is not a voice says, "Summoned, appraising gift." I flinch. Nobody else reacts, so they didn't hear it. It's for me. Gift assigned, skill theft, copies, one ability observed in an enemy. Copied ability functions at a fraction of original strength, duration and count scale with user growth. I read it twice. In games, steal skills are usually garbage on paper and situational gold in practice, so my first instinct isn't despair, it's what's the exploit. Fraction of strength, observed, enemy. Those are 3 separate constraints, and every constraint is also a rule. And rules, the old priest reads the glass aloud, and the word he uses lands in the hall like a dropped plate. The reaction is instant and unanimous. The hunger on all those faces curdles. A ripple of noise goes through the tears, not gasps. Worse, laughter. Someone actually laughs, a short bark, and then a dozen people are muttering, and the muttering has the specific ugly texture of a crowd that just watched a lottery ticket come up blank. "A copier," someone says, loud enough to carry. "At reduced strength. We emptied the treasury for a copier." The silver-haired woman does not laugh. Somehow that's worse. She looks at me with an expression that has finished processing and moved on, the way you close a tab. "The cost of this summoning," she says quietly to the priest beside her, but the acoustics of the hall carry it to me anyway. "Could have paid a garrison for a season." So that's the number. I don't know the currency, but I know the sentiment. They spent a fortune, and they think they bought nothing. In their ledger, I'm not a person. I'm a bad purchase. Here's the thing about being a bad purchase. People do stupid things to feel better about money they've already lost. "Priestess Rika," the old man ventures. The previous 3 summons yielded a fire caller, a blade saint, and the enhancement knight now serving the eastern line. This, he gestures at me without looking at me, this is not without any value. Reduced copies still are worth a fraction of a fraction, Rika says. "You are describing a beggar who steals watered wine." She finally addresses me directly. "You." Do you understand the words being spoken? Yes, I say. My voice comes out steadier than I expected. Good, voice is a state too. Every one of them. Something flickers across her face, mild surprise that I can talk back, gone in half a second. Then understand this. You were summoned to serve Soloria in its war. Every hero we call is an investment against Viel. Strong gifts go to the front. Yours does not merit the front, a pause, cold and total. But an investment that yields nothing is a loss. Losses are minimized where they can be. You will be sent to the Colosseum. The room reacts again, and this reaction is different from the laughter, quieter. A couple of the priests wince. Whatever the Colosseum is, it's the kind of thing polite people don't like being reminded of. There, Reka continues, even a copier of watered wine may generate coin, and coin serves the war. If you die, we have lost nothing we had not already lost. She turns away. Take him. And that's it. No trial, no chance to argue value, no tutorial NPC to explain my options. I got appraised, priced, marked down, and shelved, all in under 3 minutes. 2 guards in dull armor come up onto the floor and haul me to my feet by the arms. And I don't fight, because fighting 2 armed men who outmass me 2-1 is a losing exchange, and I don't take losing exchanges when there's no upside. But I do look back at Reka as they drag me out, and I memorize her. Not out of hatred, out of habit. She's the one who set the price, which means she's the one who understands what the price actually is. Which means, somewhere down the line, she's the one who can be shown she was wrong. That's not a plan. That's just where I file her, under later. They put me underground. The Colosseum, it turns out, isn't just the arena, it's a whole complex, and most of it is below the sand. They march me down a spiral of stone stairs slick with damp, past torch brackets and iron doors, into air that gets closer and older with every level. By the time they shove me into a cell and clang the gate shut, I've counted 4 checkpoints, 2 guard rotations, and exactly one thing that matters. Nobody here searched me, argued about me, or wrote anything down. I'm not a prisoner they're tracking. I'm inventory that walked itself into storage. The cell is maybe 4 paces on a side, straw on the floor, a bucket, a slot in the door. And against the far wall, chained at the ankle to a ring in the stone, a man. He's old the way old trees are old, bark-skinned, scarred, thick where age usually thins people out. One eye is milky. The other tracks me as I come in and keeps tracking as the guards leave and the footsteps fade up the stairs. For a while, neither of us says anything. I use the time to inventory the room properly. The chain on his ankle is heavy, but the ring in the wall is old, mortar crumbling at its base. Not that it matters to me. My gate's the problem, not his ring. The straw's dry, which means this cell doesn't flood. The bucket is empty, which means water comes on a schedule I haven't learned yet. My stomach is already cramping. I can't remember when I last ate, and by the dryness in my throat, I've got maybe a day before thirst starts making my decisions for me. So water is priority 1. Whatever else this place is, I need to learn when the water comes. You're doing it wrong, the old man says. I look at him. Doing what? Whatever it is you think you're doing, counting the stones, measuring the door. His voice is a low rasp, amused. Everyone who comes down here fresh does one of 2 things. They weep or they plan an escape. You're a planner, I can tell. You've already walked the corners with your eyes. He shifts, chain scraping. There's no escape. Save yourself the mapping. I wasn't mapping an escape, I say. And I wasn't. Escape is a dumb first move you escape to somewhere, and I don't have a somewhere. I've got no money, no allies, no language beyond whatever spell is translating for me, and a world at war outside these walls. Running is how you die tired instead of rested. I was learning where the water comes from. The old man goes still. Then his good eye crinkles, and he makes a sound that might be a laugh. Huh, that's the right question. First right question I've heard in a while. He nods at the slot in the door. Twice a day. Morning and after the last fight. Bread with it if the day's takings were good. Learn the fights and you'll know the schedule better than the guards. Filed. Thanks. Don't thank me. I'm bored, and you're new, and information's the only thing worth having down here, so I'll spend some on you for the entertainment. He settles back against the wall. You're for the Colosseum. So they said. What is it? It's the only law that matters below the sand. He says it like he's said it 100 times, worn smooth. Up top, there's a war, and wars cost coin. The theocracy summons your kind. He waves a gnarled hand at me, hoping to roll a monster they can point at Vial. Most rolls are good enough for the front. The bad rolls. The hand tips toward me again. Come here. The Colosseum turns you into coin. People pay to watch. Pay to watch us die. Sometimes. Not usually. Dead fighters don't fight again, bad for business. He taps the chain on his ankle. The rule's this. 2 go out onto the sand. 1 comes back the winner. The loser doesn't die. A pause, and his good eye fixes on me to make sure I'm listening. The loser becomes the winner's, a debt servant, bound by the arena's own binding, which you cannot break and I cannot break and no one has broken. You fight who your master says fight until you've bled off the debt of your defeat, which for most is never. I turn that over. It lands with a weight the deathmatch version wouldn't have. Death is simple, a coin flip you can plan around. This is worse and better at the same time. Worse because losing doesn't free you. It doubles your chains. Better because, so the loser lives, I say slowly. The prize is a person, not a corpse. The prize is labor, the old man corrects. A fighter you own and rent out and send back onto the sand to win you more. That's the economy of this place, boy. Debts stacked on debts. The strong own strings of the weak. And the crowd loves it because it's cleaner than blood and crueler than dying. They get to watch the mighty humiliated into servitude, over and over, forever. And you? His mouth twists. I lost, long ago, to someone who lost to someone else. I've changed hands 4 times. Nobody rents an old man anymore, so they keep me down here to talk to fresh meat like you. No self-pity in it, just accounting. That's the whole shape of it. Now you know the rules. What you do with them is between you and whatever gift you rolled. The whole shape of it. I sit down against my side of the cell, and for the first time since the floor turned to light, I let myself actually think instead of just observing. Not about how I got here, that's a locked door, no point pulling on it, about the rules. Because he just handed me the rules, and rules are the only thing I've ever been better at than anyone. Loser becomes the winner's servant. So every fight I win doesn't just keep me alive, it converts an enemy into an asset. Every opponent is potentially mine afterward. That's not a punishment system. That's a recruitment system wearing a punishment system's clothes. The strong don't see it that way because the strong win by being strong and treat their servants like tools. But I'm not strong. I'm never going to be strong. Which means I'm going to have to win differently, and win differently means I'm going to end up with people the strong throw away the same way I got thrown away. My gift copies an enemy's ability at a fraction of strength, useless in a straight fight, they all said. And in a straight fight, they're right. A fraction of a fireball loses to a whole fireball every single time. But I don't have to fight straight. I never had to, not in any game I've ever cleared. The whole appeal of a steel mechanic is that it only pays off when you stop trying to outdamage the enemy and start trying to make the enemy hand you the exact tool that beats them. The gift isn't cast weak spells. The gift is, the enemy is a menu, and I get to order once. Copied ability functions at a fraction of original strength. Duration and count scale with user growth. Count scales, so right now I can hold what 1? 2? But that ceiling moves. A copier who can only hold 1 skill is a joke. A copier who can hold 6, and knows which 6, and knows the exact order to fire them in so each one covers the last one's weakness. That's not a joke. That's a combo, and combos don't care how strong the individual pieces are. Combos care about timing, and timing is a rule, and rules are mine. I don't have any of it yet. Right now I've got a fraction of nothing because I haven't seen an enemy use anything I can steal. Right now I'm exactly as weak as they think I am weaker, probably, since half of these fighters have spent years building muscle and magic I'll never match. I'm at the bottom of a system designed by strong people, for strong people, to grind weak people into coin and servitude forever. Good. Systems built by strong people always assume you'll play strong. The old man is watching me, and whatever he sees on my face makes his good eye narrow. You've gone quiet, he says. The good quiet or the bad quiet? Depends, I say. You said nobody's ever broken the arena's binding. Nobody. Has anybody ever won without being the strongest? He's silent for a moment. Then slowly, no. That's the same question, boy. In here, winning is being the strongest. That's the whole design. I lean my head back against the cold stone and close my eyes, and for the first time in this entire nightmare, I feel something that isn't fear. It's small and it's stupid, and it's the only thing that's ever really been mine. They built a game where the strongest win. They wrote all the rules around that one assumption. And they just dropped the world's weakest player into the bottom of it, and walked away laughing, certain the math was over. They didn't check for exploits. Okay, I say, to the ceiling, to the arena, to the silver-haired woman who priced me at nothing and the whole crimson-robed room that laughed. New game. I open my eyes. Let's read the rules. The water comes twice a day, exactly like the old man said. I used the first delivery to learn the guard's face and the second to learn his routine. And by the end of my first full day underground, I know 3 things I didn't know at the start. The morning waterman is different from the evening one. The evening one is lazy and doesn't check the slot, and I am going to be moved before I ever get comfortable with any of it. They move me on the second day, not up to the sand to a different cell, deeper in the warren, a holding block for fighters with matches coming. The old man doesn't say goodbye. He just nods his good eye at me as the guards haul me out and says, "Learn fast, water boy." And then the gate closes on him and I never see him again. I file that away too, under the growing folder of things this place takes from you before you're ready. The new cell has 2 people in it. One's asleep, or pretending to be, curled against the wall with his back to the room. The other is sitting cross-legged in the straw like she owns it, and she's looking at me before the gate even finishes clanging. She's maybe a few years older than me. Dark hair cut short and practical, sharp features, eyes that do the same measuring thing Reika's did, except without the discount already applied. She looks me over once, top to bottom, and I watch her arrive at a conclusion and decide not to share it. "New," she says. It's not a question. "New." I agree, and sit down against the opposite wall, which is what you do when you don't know the social rules yet take the neutral position, give nothing, watch. "You're the copier." That stops me. Word travels. Word is the only thing that travels down here. Everything else is chained. She tilts her head. The summoning hall laughed at you. That story made it below the sand before your feet did. Skill theft, reduced strength. She says it in the same flat, mocking tone the priest used, and then, unexpectedly, drops the mockery entirely. It's not a joke gift. Everyone who thinks it is has never had to fight one. I keep my face still, but inside something goes very alert. Because that's the first true thing anyone in this world has said to me, and she said it like she was testing whether I already knew it. "You're Mitsuki," I say. It's a guess built on nothing but the way the sleeping man's shoulders tensed when she started talking like a person braces around someone who talks too much and always for a reason. Her eyebrow goes up 1/2 centimeter. "And you listen." "Good. That's rarer than you'd think." She uncrosses and recrosses her legs. "Let me save us both some time, copier. I have a proposition and it's a good one, and you're going to want to haggle because you're a planner and planners always haggle, but there's nothing to haggle over, so listen first." "I'm listening." "You have a match. Tomorrow, maybe the day after they don't tell you until the gate opens, keeps you off balance. Your first opponent is already decided, because they don't waste a fresh copier on a random draw. They picked someone to make an example of you. She lets that sit. I know who it is. I know exactly what she does, how she does it, and the specific ways she likes to break rookies before she binds them. I have watched her fight more times than she'd like anyone to have counted. And you'll tell me. For a price. Here it comes. Not coin. You don't have any, and I wouldn't want it if you did. One favor. Owed to me. Callable at a time of my choosing, for anything within your power. She holds up a finger before I can respond. After you win. If you lose, you're someone else's property tomorrow, and your favors aren't yours to spend, so there's no risk to you and no cost until the win exists. You're paying with money you don't have yet. I turn it over. In games, an NPC who offers you critical information for a vague future favor is either a quest hook or a con, and the tell is whether the immediate value is worth more than the vague cost. Full intel on an opponent I know nothing about. In a fight I will otherwise lose blind, versus one favor owed to a stranger, contingent on a victory that isn't guaranteed. The expected value is absurdly in my favor. The only real risk is what anything within your power means later, but later only exists if I survive now, and I can't spend a favor I'm not alive to owe. That's a fair deal, I say, which is what worries me. For the first time she smiles, and it's a real one, quick and a little surprised. Smart. It worries you because fair deals down here usually have a knife in the lining. Fine. Here's the lining. I'm not doing this to be kind. I've bet on rookies before. They died or they folded or they won and forgot me. You're the first one who asked about the water schedule before he asked about escape. She's watching me closely now. Someone told me that, so I already know something about how you think, and I've decided you're worth one bet's worth of my information. That's the whole lining. Take it or don't. I take it, I say. The favor's yours. After the win. After the win. She doesn't offer a hand to shake. I get the sense physical trust isn't currency here. She just nods once, and it's done, and I've entered into the first agreement of my life in this world, And I did it with the only person who's treated me like a system worth studying instead of a number to write off. Then she tells me about Ren Kagutsuchi. They call her the Flame Executioner. Mitsuki says, and settles in, and for the next while she talks and I do the thing I do best, which is take a wall of information and start sorting it into rules and exceptions. Her gift is Purgatory Flame, not fireballs anyone can throw fire. Purgatory Flame clings. It sticks to whatever it touches and keeps burning, feeds on the target, hard to smother. She's built her whole style around it. She doesn't need a killing blow. She lands one graze, one lick of flame anywhere on you, and then she dances back and waits while it eats you and you panic and swat at yourself and make mistakes. Rule: the flame is the threat, not the impact. Being touched once is losing. I file it. How does she land the graze? That's the second half. Mitsuki's eyes gleam. She likes this part. She's fast. Not superhuman fast. She's got a dodge she can trigger near instantly, a short burst like a blink to the side. Costs her something. She can't spam it forever, but in a short fight, she doesn't need to. She provokes, you commit to an attack, she blinks out of the way, and your momentum leaves you open, and she grazes you on the recovery. Mitsuki mimes it with 2 fingers, a lunge, a sidestep, a tap. Purgatory Flame plus instant dodge. That's the whole kit. Simple, nasty, undefeated against rookies because rookies always do the same thing. Which is? They attack. She wants you to attack. She's a counterfighter dressed up as an aggressor. The provocation, the toying, the way she humiliates people, it's not just cruelty, though she enjoys the cruelty. It's bait. She spent years teaching herself to make angry, scared people swing at her because a swing is a commitment, and a commitment is a window. Mitsuki leans back, so the obvious lesson is, don't attack. Don't take the bait, and that's the trap inside the trap because you can't win by not attacking. She'll just walk you into a corner, take her time, and graze you at her leisure. Passive loses slow. Aggressive loses fast. That's the box she puts everyone in. I sit with that for a while. 2 failure states, both leading to the same place, which is the arena's specialty, a box with the lid already on. This is exactly the kind of design problem I love, the kind that has no answer if you accept the terms the designer gave you. So I don't accept the terms. You said my gift isn't a joke. I say slowly, working it in the open so she can catch a flaw if there is one. Here's why it isn't. Everybody thinks skill theft is I get a weaker version of your power. That's true, and it's useless. A fraction of Purgatory Flame is a candle, and I'm not going to outburn her with a candle. But that's not what the gift actually is. The gift is that whatever she does, I can then do. Weakly, but I can do it. Mitsuki goes still, the way she went still in the summoning hall story. She's ahead of me already. She wants to see if I get there myself. She has 2 tools, I say. The flame and the dodge. If I copy the flame, I get a candle, useless. But if I copy the dodge, I feel it click into place, clean and satisfying, the way a puzzle piece stops rattling. Then the counterfighter's own escape becomes mine. A weak version of an instant sidestep isn't a weak version of an attack. It's a weak version of not being where she expects. And I don't need it to be strong. I need it exactly once, at exactly the right moment. A fraction of a blink is still a blink. For that, Mitsuki says quietly, you have to see her use it first. Copy requires observation. She has to spend it in front of you before you own it. Right? So my whole job in the early fight isn't to hit her. It's to make her spend her kit at me, the flame, and especially the dodge, so I can copy them while not getting grazed doing it. I'm mapping the fight now, laying the beats out in my head like a level. She wants me to attack so she can counter. Fine, I'll give her attacks. Just bad ones, committed enough to make her dodge, weak enough that if she flames the recovery, I can survive 1 graze long enough to smother it. I feed her the pattern she wants until she's shown me both tools. And then you have both her tools and she has no idea, Mitsuki finishes. There's a strange expression on her face, somewhere between approval and unease. You realize what you're describing. You're planning to lose every exchange on purpose until the last one. You're going to let her burn you. Once. Controllably. I've already thought about this part and I don't love it, but I don't have to love it. I just have to survive it. You said the flame clings and feeds. How do people put it out? Smother it. Cut off the air. Sand works, it's why the floor's sand and not stone. The crowd likes when people roll in it screaming. Water works, but there's no water on the sand. She's watching me differently now. You'd let her graze you somewhere you can immediately pack with sand. An arm. Not the torso. Not near the face. The flame spreads and panic kills you faster than the burn. You take 1 controlled graze on a limb, you smother it in the sand in the same motion, and you eat the pain. I eat the pain, I agree. It's not bravado, it's arithmetic. I don't have muscle or magic. The only resource I have in surplus is a willingness to take a bad trade now for a winning position later, because that's the entire logic of a steel build. You lose the early exchanges to own the late ones. Mitsuki is quiet for a long moment. The sleeping man in the corner has stopped pretending to sleep. His breathing changed a few sentences ago, though he hasn't turned around. You're either going to win, Mitsuki says finally, or you're going to die being very clever. I genuinely don't know which yet, and I've watched a lot of first fights. She shakes her head. One correction to your plan, because it's the thing that kills the clever ones. You keep saying the right moment. You don't get to pick it. She does. She's better than you at everything except thinking, so she'll control the tempo, and the moment you're waiting for might not come the way you drew it. So, don't build a plan with one right moment. Build a plan that wins on any moment she gives you an opening. Flexibility beats precision when you're the weaker fighter. Always. I look at her, and I file that harder than anything else she's told me, because it's the first piece of advice I've received in this world that would improve how I play any game, not just this one. That's good, I say. That's really good. I know it's good. I've been down here longer than anyone left alive knows. She says it lightly, but there's a whole history folded into the sentence, folded so tight I can't read it yet. I file that too, Mitsuki, longer than anyone knows under later. There's another folder I file that same way, and I only notice it because she brought up escape without meaning to. Home. The bedroom floor that turned to light. Somewhere behind all this there's presumably a world I came from, and a way back, or not. I turn it over for exactly as long as it takes to conclude I have no handle to pull on it, no ritual I control, no knowledge of how the summoning even ran, nothing but a war-torn world and a cell. Home's a locked door with no handle, I've found. I file it under later and leave it there, because later only exists if I survive now, and now has a woman in red waiting on the sand. I spend the rest of that day and all of the next drilling it. Not physically, there's no room and no point. My body isn't the tool. I drill it the way I drill a boss I can't beat yet. In my head, over and over, running the pattern until it's automatic. Provoke a bad attack. Make her dodge, watch the blink, own the blink. Take one graze on the left forearm, I decide on the left because I'm right-handed and I'll want the good arm free, smother it in sand in the same motion. Do not panic. Panic is the actual killer. Feed her the counter-fighter's diet until she's spent both tools where I can see them. Then wait, flexibly, for any opening. And when it comes, use her own instant dodge to close the distance she thinks is safe, and put everything I have into the one place her style leaves open. Because a counterfighter has a seam, everyone does. Mitsuki mentioned it in passing, and I've been chewing on it since. Ren resets her stance after every dodge. Past the blink throws her offline, and she squares up again before the next exchange. And a stance reset is a fraction of a second where the guard is down and the body is recentering, and that's the seam, that's the window, that's the crack in a design that was built by someone who only ever fought people trying to hit her, not people trying to become her. I don't sleep much the second night. Not from fear I've mostly filed away, but because the pattern won't stop running, and I've learned not to fight it when it does that. That's the part of me that's good. Let it run. The water comes in the morning, no bread, bad takings the day before apparently. I drink all of it and don't think about food, because a hungry body fights fine for the 10 minutes this will take, and worrying about it burns energy I need. Mitsuki doesn't wish me luck. What she does is better. As the guards come and I hear them coming, boots on the spiral, and I feel my whole body go cold, and then, deliberately, go calm, she says, very quietly, so the sleeping man won't hear. Left forearm. Smother, don't swat. Any opening, not the perfect one. A beat. And copy her, she's going to laugh at you before it starts. Everyone does. Let her. A laughing enemy has already decided how the fight ends. Prove her right about everything except the ending. The gate opens. The guards don't say anything. They just gesture, and I get up, and my legs hold, which is good. That was genuinely in question. They march me up the spiral I've spent 3 days mapping. The air gets warmer, then hot, then bright, real sunlight, the first I've seen in this world, pouring down a final ramp toward a wall of sound I can feel in my chest before I can see its source. A crowd, thousands of them, a roar like an ocean made of people. At the top of the ramp is a gate of black iron, and beyond it a floor of pale sand, and standing in the middle of that floor is a woman in red with fire already curling lazily around one hand, grinning across at the tunnel where they're bringing up the weakest gladiator anyone's ever summoned. The gate rises. Ren Kagutsuchi sees me small, unarmed, unarmored, a joke the whole hall laughed at 3 days ago, and she throws her head back and laughs. Good, I think, and step out onto the sand. Prove her right about everything except the ending. The sand is hotter than I expected, and softer than I expected, and both of those facts go into the plan before I've taken 3 steps onto it. Hot. The sun's been baking this floor all morning, so the top layer is loose and dry, and the flame residue is going to sit on it, not sink into it. Soft. I'll lose speed pushing off it, but so will she, and more importantly, it means I can pack a burning arm into it fast. 2 data points, 2 seconds, and I haven't even looked at Ren properly yet. Now I look at Ren properly. She's stopped laughing mostly, though the grin's still on. Red leather, red hair tied back, fire lazing around her right hand like a pet that knows it's dangerous. She's built like an athlete, loose and easy, weight already shifting from foot to foot in a way that isn't nervous, it's the idle motion of someone who never stops being ready to blink sideways. Mitsuki was right, counterfighter, everything about her stance is an invitation. "They actually sent you up," she calls across the sand, delighted. "I thought it was a joke." I thought the priests were having a laugh at my expense. "Ren, we've got a copier for you, reduced strength. Isn't that funny?" She spreads her arms, playing to the crowd, and the crowd loves it, a wave of laughter rolling around the tears. And here you are, no weapon, no armor. You're not even scared, which means you're either brave or stupid, and I've never met a brave rookie. Stupid then, I say. My voice doesn't carry the way hers does. She's clearly done this 100 times. Knows how to throw a voice around an arena, but it carries far enough. You can go with stupid. "Oh, I like him," she says to the crowd, and the crowd likes that she likes me, and this is all theater, and I let it be theater, because theater is time and time is when I'm not on fire. I take stock of the arena while she works the audience. Circular, sand floor, low wall separating the fighting ground from the front row. No cover, no terrain, no water, exactly what Mitsuki described, but not featureless. There's the gate I came from, the identical gate across the way, and above them, in a shaded box draped in white and gold, a figure I recognize even at this distance by the set of her shoulders. Reika is watching. Of course she is. She priced me at nothing. She'll want to confirm the ledger. Good. File it. Later. "Rules are simple, stupid rookie," Ren says, turning back to me, and the flame around her hand flares brighter. First to yield, or first to stop being able to fight. I win, you're mine, and I'll be honest. I don't need another servant, so mostly I'm going to enjoy this part. She rolls her neck. "I'm going to give you 1 graze, just 1, and then I'm going to watch you dance." That's the tell, right there, spoken out loud because she's so sure of it she thinks saying it changes nothing. 1 graze and then I watch. She doesn't intend to kill me. She intends to burn me once and let the flame do the theater while she stands back. Which means the flame comes early, and the dodge comes when I commit to something. Which means I need to commit to something, on purpose, badly. A horn sounds somewhere above. Ren moves first, because of course she does. A lazy testing motion, a flick of the flame hand, a short arc of fire that isn't meant to land, just meant to make me flinch and reveal how I flinch. Reading me the way I'm reading her. I don't flinch cleanly. I stumble back a half step too far, too clumsy, arms windmilling a little, selling weak, selling scared. It's not hard to sell because 90% of it is real. I am weak, I am scared, I just add the last 10% of theater and let her draw the conclusion she already wanted. Her grin widens. There it is. She comes in. Not fast, she's saving the dodge, I can tell. She's not committed to anything, she's hurting me. She wants me to swing, so I swing. I lunge at her, a bad lunge, arm out, weight forward, exactly the committed overreach a scared rookie throws, and she blinks. It's exactly like Mitsuki mimed. A short sideways burst, faster than a step should be, her whole body just elsewhere, a body length to my left, and my momentum carries me stumbling past where she was. In the same motion, her flame hand licks out toward my exposed side. And in the half second of the blink, I see it. Not just watch it, see it. The way you see the frame data on a move you've been grinding. The specific shape and timing and cost of the thing. Skill copied. Flash step. Copied ability. Reduced. 1 use available. 1 use. Not a fraction of a blink over and over, 1 blink, weaker, and then it's spent until whatever cooldown or recharge the gift runs on. I file that instantly, the most important number of my life. I get 1. Which means I only get to spend it on the moment that ends the fight. Not now. But copying the blink means I committed, and committing means the flame is coming for my recovery, exactly as planned. And this is the part I don't get to think through. This is the part I just have to survive. The graze catches my left forearm. It's not like being burned by fire. It's worse, the purgatory flame clings, a smear of it stuck to my skin, and it doesn't just hurt. It grabs, it starts eating, and every animal instinct in my body screams, swat it, get it off. And Mitsuki's voice cuts through the panic because I drilled it into the panic on purpose. Smother, don't swat. I drop. I drive my forearm into the sand and grind, packing loose hot sand over the flame, cutting off its air, rolling the whole limb through it, and the fire gutters and chokes and dies against the sand in maybe 2 seconds that feel like an hour. The pain stays. The pain is enormous, a bright screaming line up my arm, but the flame is out, and pain I can carry. Pain is just information the body sends too loudly. I come up out of the sand with my left arm useless and my right arm free, and my heart going like a hammer, and Ren has already blinked back to her comfortable distance, watching, exactly like she promised. Watching me dance. Huh, she says. The grin flickers. Sand. You knew about the sand. Genuine mild surprise. Somebody coached you. Somebody coached me. I agree, cradling my dead arm, selling the injury harder than it needs selling because a hurt arm is a resource now, a reason for her to keep underestimating me. I have the blink. I have one blink. Weak. Saved. I don't have the flame yet. I copied the flash step in the moment she used it, but her flame hand's arc when it grazed me was a strike, not a spell cast I could read cleanly. And I decide, in the space of a breath, that I don't need the flame. The flame's a candle. What I need is the seam. So I keep her fighting. I keep feeding her the pattern. For the next stretch, I don't know how long, arena time is elastic, the crowd noise comes and goes, I do the ugliest, most disciplined thing I've ever done, which is lose, repeatedly, on purpose, while looking like I'm trying to win. I throw bad attacks with my one good arm. She reads them and blinks and repositions and doesn't waste flame because she's decided the fight's already won, she's just enjoying it now, she's playing to the crowd between exchanges, and every exchange teaches me one more grain about her. And here's what I learn. Grain by grain, watching the thing Mitsuki flagged. After every blink, Ren resets. The flash step throws her offline, that's physics. You can't teleport a body sideways and land perfectly balanced, so she lands and squares up. A small, fast recentering of her stance, hips and shoulders realigning to face me before the next beat. It's fast, it's practiced, it's maybe half a second. And in that half second, her guard is nowhere. Her weight is transitioning, and her flame hand is down and reorienting. That's the window. Not the perfect moment. A moment, a repeatable one she hands me every single time she uses her own signature move. Flexibility beats precision. I don't need to wait for something special. I need her to blink one more time, and then in the reset, use my one saved blink to be somewhere she doesn't expect, and put my whole body into the seam. But there's a problem, and I find it the hard way. Her blink is short, a body length, maybe a little more. My copied blink is reduced. I don't know how reduced until I need it, and I can't test it. Testing spends my one use. If my blink is shorter than her blink, I close some distance in the reset, but not enough, and I arrive at her recovered guard instead of her open seam, and I've spent everything for nothing and I lose. So I can't just wait for any blink. I need her to blink toward me, or across a short gap, so that my reduced closing distance is enough to reach her before she finishes resetting. I need to control the geometry. And I don't control anything, she controls the tempo. She said so herself, Mitsuki said so, but I control where I stand. I start hurting her. Subtly, the way she's been hurting me, except she doesn't notice because she's not looking for it. Why would the hurted rookie be hurting her? Every time I throw a bad attack, I angle it so my clumsy recovery leaves me a step closer to the center of the arena, and I bait her to blink back toward the wall on the far side. And slowly, exchange by exchange, I'm shrinking the space she's working in and drifting the fight toward the patch of sand where our earlier exchanges left flame residue, a dark, scorched, still faintly smoking stretch from when her earlier arcs of purgatory flame kissed the ground and clung and burned themselves out. Because purgatory flame clings to what it touches, including sand. And burning sand throws up smoke and heat shimmer, and a fighter who blinks through that patch is going to land in her own residue with smoke in her eyes for exactly the half second of a stance reset. I'm betting the whole fight on a half second inside a half second. Mitsuki would tell me that's too precise. Mitsuki would tell me to have a flexible plan. And she'd be right, so my flexible plan is this. If the smoke doesn't blind her, I still get the reset window, I still get the seam, the blink is still worth a shot, the residue just makes it better, not necessary. Any opening? Not the perfect one, but I'll take the perfect one if the geometry gives it to me. You're slowing down, rookie. Ren calls, and there's the first thread of impatience in it now, because I've kept her working longer than any rookie has, and the crowd's laughter has gone quieter, curious, and a bored crowd is bad for Ren's whole thing. Yield. It's over. You fought clever, I'll give you that, Cleverer than the last 10, but clever loses to fire. Yield and I'll be gentle. One more, I say, and I throw one more bad attack, the worst one yet, wide open, screaming finish me, and I throw it from exactly the spot I've been drifting toward, with the scorched patch at my back. She takes it. Of course she takes it. It's the opening she's been waiting for all fight. The moment the clever rookie finally gets tired and stupid, and she blinks toward me, across the short gap, through the edge of her own smoking residue to close and end it with flame at point blank. She lands in the smoke, half a second. Smoke in her eyes, blinking it away, stance resetting, hips squaring, flame hand dropping and reorienting, and for that half second Ren Kagutsuchi is exactly as blind and off balance and open as everyone she's ever burned, and she has no idea, because in years of fighting, nobody has ever been able to do anything with it. I spend my one blink. Flash step. The world lurches sideways forward. It's not her blink mind's shorter, weaker, a stumbling fraction of the real thing, but I set the geometry so a fraction is all I need, and the fraction carries me the last short gap I couldn't cross on my own legs, straight into the smoke, straight to her resetting side, into the seam. I have no strength. I've known that from the summoning hall. A fraction of a fireball is a candle and my whole body is a candle. But I don't need to be strong to drive my elbow, my good arm, my right, all my weight behind it, everything. The entire loss-stacked fight collapsing into one honest exchange into the gap in her leather, where the stance reset leaves her ribs unguarded and her breath already out from the effort of the blink. It's not a killing blow. I don't have killing blows. It's a blow to a specific undefended place, delivered at the one instant it's undefended, by someone who arranged every second of the fight to buy that instant. The air goes out of her. She folds around it, the flame around her hand sputtering as her concentration breaks, and she drops to one knee in her own scorched sand, wheezing, more shocked than hurt, staring at me like I'm a bug that just quoted scripture. And here's the thing about a counterfighter whose whole game is one graze and then watch. The moment I'm inside her guard, in the seam with her folded and breathless and her flame offline, she has no answer. Her kit is built for distance and tempo and she has neither. I don't let her recover it. I get my dead left arm across her throat and my knee into her back and every gram of my not much body weight bearing her down into the sand, and I put my mouth by her ear so only she can hear it under the crowd. Yield, I say. You said clever loses to fire. It didn't. Yield, and I'll be gentle. For a second, a long one, I feel her gather to fight it anyway, pride winding up to spend the last of her breath trying to blink out from under me. And I can't stop her if she does. I'm out of blinks, out of tricks, running on the fumes of a plan that's already spent its whole magazine. Everything from here is a bluff, and the calm in my voice is the only card I've got left. She feels the elbow, though. She feels how precisely it landed, on the one spot, at the one instant. She's a fighter. She knows what it means when someone finds that seam on purpose. It means it wasn't luck. It means if she blinks out, I'll just do it again, because I clearly know something she doesn't, and Ren Kagutsuchi did not survive years down here by making the same losing bet twice in one fight. Yield! She rasps. The horn sounds. The arena is dead silent for one full second, the length of a held breath from thousands of people who came to watch a joke get burned and instead watch the joke pin the flame executioner in her own ashes, and then the sound that comes down out of the tears isn't laughter. It's a roar of pure disbelief, the noise a crowd makes when the math it was certain of just broke in front of it. I get off her. My left arm is a screaming ruin, and I'm going to need to look at that soon, before it swells, but not yet. I stand up in the middle of the sand, weak and unarmed and unarmored and the worst gift ever recorded, and I look up past the roaring crowd, up to the white and gold box where a silver-haired woman is standing very, very still. Reka priced me at nothing. I look right at her, and I don't grin, because grinning is Ren's game and I'm not Ren. I just hold her gaze long enough that she knows I meant to, long enough to make one silent point across the whole screaming arena. Recheck your ledger. Then I look down at Ren, still on her knees in the scorched sand, staring up at me with an expression I'll come to know very well over the next weeks, the specific expression of a person whose entire understanding of how the world works has just been overturned by someone they laughed at. Get up, I tell her, and offer my good hand. You're mine now, but we're going to do this differently than you think. The first thing that happens after a win, it turns out, is nothing. No fanfare, no ceremony, no NPC handing me loot. A pair of arena handlers walk me and Ren off the sand through the far gate, down a different set of stairs than I came up, and deposit us in a low stone room that smells like an infirmary, because it is one. A tired-looking woman in a stained apron takes one look at my left forearm, makes a face, and gets to work without a word. Purgatory Flame, it turns out, doesn't leave a normal burn. The graze on my forearm is a shallow line, but the skin around it is angry and blistered in a pattern that doesn't quite look like fire should. The healer packs it with something that smells like tar and vinegar, wraps it tight, and tells me in 3 flat sentences that it'll scar, that I shouldn't grip anything hard for a week, and that if it goes green and starts smelling sweet, I'm to come back before it kills me. Then she moves on. Efficient. This is a place that patches fighters the way you patch equipment enough to keep it usable, no more. Ren sits on the next cot and doesn't get treated because she isn't hurt, not really. A bruised set of ribs and a pride broken clean through the middle. She watches the healer work on me with an expression I can't read. And when the healer's gone, she finally speaks. "You didn't answer me on the sand," she says. "We're going to do this differently." "Different how?" "Later," I say. "How badly are your ribs?" She blinks. "What?" "Your ribs. I put my whole weight into that elbow and you've been holding your left side since we came off the sand. How bad?" Ren stares at me like I've started speaking a language she doesn't have the translation spell for. "Bruised, not cracked. I've fought worse." A pause. "Why do you care?" "Because you're the only asset I have and I'd like to know its condition." I say it plainly, because plain is the only register I trust with her right now. That's not me being cold. That's me being honest about where we are. You lost, which means you're bound to me, which means as I understand the rules you fight who I say fight until the debt of your defeat is paid off. Is that right? Correct me if I've got it wrong, because I've had exactly 3 days in this world and most of my information comes from a woman who trades it for favors. Something shifts in Ren's face. The wariness stays, but a thread of grudging surprise runs through it. That's right. That's the binding. You say fight, I fight. You say kneel, I kneel. It's in me now, I can feel it, like a leash I can't chew through. Her jaw tightens. So go on, do the part where you enjoy it. Everybody enjoys it. I did, when it was me on the winning end. I broke people on that sand and then I made them fetch my wine and I liked it. She lifts her chin, defiant, bracing. So do your version. Get it over with. And here's the moment. I can feel it, the shape of the choice, the way you feel a branching dialogue tree open up. She's expecting humiliation because humiliation is the currency she understands, both spending it and receiving it. Whatever I do here sets the terms for everything that comes after, with her and with everyone who hears about it, and people will hear about it. Mitsuki told me word is the only thing that travels down here. So I think about it as a design decision, not a moral one, because that's how I think about everything, and pretending otherwise would be a lie she'd smell. Humiliating Ren buys me one thing. It satisfies a crowd's expectation, and it feels briefly like justice for the summoning hall. That's the whole payoff. And the costs are enormous. A humiliated servant fights at the minimum the leash forces and not 1 degree more. A humiliated servant looks for the day the debt clears and then walks, or worse, waits for me to slip. And every future opponent I bind, because I intend to bind a lot of them, will have watched how I treat the first one. If the story that travels down here is the copier breaks his people like everyone else, then I'm just a weaker version of the system that threw me away, and weaker versions of strong systems lose. There's a better play. It's obvious once you stop optimizing for feeling good and start optimizing for winning. I'm not going to enjoy anything, I say. You lost a fight, that's it. I'm not going to make you fetch wine, and I'm not going to break you because a broken fighter is a wasted asset and I can't afford to waste anything. I nod at her side. What I want from you is information and effort. Right now, the flame, purgatory flame. Tell me how it actually works, not the scary version you sell the crowd. The mechanics, what it costs you, how long you can sustain it, why it clings, whether the cling is the flame itself or something you're doing to it. Ren doesn't answer for a long moment. She's looking at me the way you look at a puzzle that's rearranged itself while you weren't watching. You want to study it? She says slowly. You beat me, and now you want me to teach you my own gift. I copied your flash step on the sand. Weak version, one use, and it won me the fight. So, yes, I want to understand your whole kit, because the parts of your kit I understand are parts of my kit now, at a fraction of strength. I meet her eyes. I'm never going to be strong, Ren. Everyone in this arena is stronger than me and always will be. The only thing I get to be is right, and I can't be right about a tool I don't understand. So teach me the flame, and I'll fight smart around you instead of throwing you at things blind. That's the different how. I don't own a servant. I run a team, and I want the team to actually work. She's quiet again. Then, cautiously, testing whether the ground will hold her weight. The cling isn't the flame. It's mine. Anyone can make fire. I make it want to stay. It feeds slow, but it feeds. And the longer I hold my attention on a fire I've set, the hungrier it gets. That's why I graze and wait. The waiting isn't just theater. The fire grows while I watch it, because I'm still feeding it attention. Take my attention off it, she snaps her fingers, and it's ordinary fire again, smotherable. Which is why the sand worked on you, but it wouldn't have if I'd kept my mind on that graze instead of stepping back to gloat. That is gold. That's a rule I didn't have, a constraint on the scariest tool she owns. The purgatory flame is only purgatorial while she's actively feeding it attention, and she can only feed so many fires at once. I file it so hard my hand almost twitches toward a notebook I don't have. That's exactly what I needed. I say, and I mean it, and she can hear that I mean it. And something in her posture unclenches by a single degree. Not trust, not yet. But the first crack in the expectation of cruelty. You're strange, she says. You know that. I've been told. Mitsuki is waiting when they finally return me to the holding block, and she calls in her favor before I've even sat down. I'm collecting, she says. No preamble. I ease down against the wall, favoring the bandaged arm. That was fast. I figured you'd hold it for something big. It is something big. It's just not a request. She fixes me with those measuring eyes. The favor is, you listen to me for the length of one conversation and you actually change based on it. That's the whole ask. It'll cost you more than fetching me water for a month, trust me. All right. You did a stupid thing today. Mitsuki says, and you did it so well that it looks like a smart thing, and that's the most dangerous kind of stupid because you'll do it again. She leans forward. You were merciful to Ren. In the infirmary. You didn't break her. You asked about her flame. You told her you run a team. Words already moving, the copier's soft, the copier's kind, the copier honors his defeated. Her voice sharpens. Do you understand what a half-mercy reads as down here? I wasn't half anything, I start. Let me finish. She holds up a hand. I'm not telling you to break her. I watched you think about it in the infirmary. I heard the whole thing. The walls here are a joke and your reasoning was correct. A broken servant is a wasted asset. Cruelty for its own sake is just the strong being sloppy. That part you've got right, and it's more than most ever figure out. She pauses. Here's the part you've got dangerously wrong. You think the choice is kind or cruel. It isn't. Down here, the choice is clean or soft, and they look identical from the outside until the exact moment they don't, and by then, someone's dead. I go still, because this is the thing about Mitsuki. She doesn't waste words on a point that isn't real. Explain the difference. Clean means, in the fight, you are without mercy. You end it decisively. You take everything the rules let you take. You never give an opponent a second chance out of pity, because a second chance is a chance for them to kill you. And then after you honor them completely, no gloating, no humiliation, your word is iron, you treat your bound fighters like people, because it's correct and because it works. Ruthless in the fight, honest in the aftermath. Two separate rooms, and you never let the aftermath's mercy leak into the fight. She holds my eyes. That's clean. That's the sharpest way anyone's ever fought this place, and almost nobody manages it because it takes discipline to be that gentle and that brutal in the right order. And soft? Soft is when the mercy leaks, when you pull a strike because you feel bad. When you give an opponent a heartbeat to yield out of kindness and they use it to graze your forearm. Sound familiar? You survived that today because you'd planned to eat it. But you will be in a fight where you feel a flicker of that same softness at the wrong moment, and it won't be planned, and it'll be your throat instead of your arm. She sits back. You beat Ren with a plan built entirely on the assumption that she'd be soft, that she'd graze you once, and step back to gloat instead of finishing you clean. She was soft, and you're alive because of it. Learn the lesson from the winning side. Be the version of Ren that would have killed you today. And then, off the sand, be exactly the man who asked about her ribs. Both, not one, both. I turn it over for a long time, and I can feel it slotting into the model I've been building of this place, filling a gap I hadn't known was there. Because she's right, my whole win today rested on Ren's mercy being a weakness, and I hadn't drawn the corollary that my mercy could be the same weakness pointed at me. I'd been thinking of kindness as a strategy, which it is, but only in the right room. In the wrong room, it's a hole in my guard. Clean in the fight, I say slowly, testing the shape of it. Honest after. And never let them touch each other. Never. Mitsuki's mouth curves, not quite a smile. There it is. You changed based on it. Favor paid. That's a good favor to have spent, I say. You gave me a rule. I gave you the rule that keeps you alive long enough to be useful to me later. She corrects. And there's that thread again, the long game folded up too tight to read. Don't mistake me for kind, copier. I don't do kind. I do investments. But she says it more gently than the words deserve, and I file that too. That night, lying in the dark listening to Mitsuki breathe and the sleeping man not sleep, I let one other thought surface, the one I've been keeping filed. Home. The bedroom floor that turned to light. There's presumably a world back there, and a way to it. Or not, but I've got no ritual I control. No knowledge of how the summoning ran, nothing but a war-torn world and a cell and a rule I just learned. Home's a locked door with no handle I've found. I file it under later and leave it there, because later only exists if I keep surviving now. Here's the strange thing that happens over the next several days. The story travels, exactly like Mitsuki warned, but it travels wrong, or rather, it travels in a way I didn't expect and couldn't have engineered on purpose. I don't hide the mercy, and I don't hide the ruthlessness, because Mitsuki's right that they belong in separate rooms, so I just let both be true. In the arena, when they run me a second fight that week, a bound servant of another gladiator, a heavy slow man with a stone skin gift, I win it clean. Brutally clean. I bait his one repeated attack, copy the weak version of his own skin hardening, use it to survive the one blow I have to take, and put him down without a flicker of hesitation because hesitation is a hole and I've patched that hole now. The crowd gets to watch the copier be exactly as cold as any winner down here. And then, off the sand, I keep my word to him the same way I kept it to Ren. Ask about his injury. Don't gloat. Bind him and mean it and treat the binding as a partnership he didn't choose but that I'm going to make worth something. 2 fights, 2 bound fighters, and the story that spreads through the warren of cells below the sand isn't the copier is soft, and it isn't the copier is cruel. It's something the arena has no category for, and things without a category unsettle people more than any amount of blood. The copier keeps his word. That's the sentence I hear whispered when the guards move me, when other fighters look at me sidelong in the corridors, when a servant of some champion I've never met stares at me over a water bucket with naked, careful curiosity. In a place built entirely on debts stacked on debts, on the strong owning strings of the weak and treating them like rented tools, a winner whose word is iron and whose defeated don't get humiliated is, I realize slowly, watching the reactions genuinely frightening to the people who run things. Because it means the weak have a reason to want to lose to me specifically. It means my strings won't fray. It means I'm building something the debt economy of this place isn't designed to account for, and systems hate inputs they can't account for. Ren notices it before I do, actually. She comes back from fetching the evening water, not because I ordered it, because she volunteered, which is its own small data point, and she's got a look on her face. They're talking about you, she says. Not the fight, the after. Grellin, the stone skin you beat, he told everyone you asked about his knee before you asked about anything else. He's the second one you did that to. People don't know what to do with it. She sets the water down and looks at me for a long moment. When I lost to you, I waited for the part where you'd make me small. I've made a lot of people small. I know exactly how it feels from the giving end, and I was ready for the receiving end. And you just didn't. You asked about my flame like I was worth learning from. Her jaw works. I don't know what you're building, copier, but I've decided I'd rather be inside it than out. It's not loyalty. It's too early for loyalty, and I don't trust anything that arrives that fast. But it's the first brick of it, laid by someone who a week ago threw her head back and laughed at me across the sand. Utah, I tell her, not copier. If you're inside it, you can use my name. She tries it out. Utah. A pause, and then, grudging, the ghost of the old grin, the first one that hasn't been aimed at me like a weapon. Fine, Utah, so what are you building? I look at my bandaged forearm, at the scar that's going to be there for the rest of whatever life this world lets me keep. 2 bound fighters. One rule from Mitsuki that's worth more than either fight. A story spreading through the dark that the people who priced me at nothing can't file anywhere useful. A world of strong people who never once checked their game for exploits. A team, I say, out of the people this place throws away, starting with the ones I have to beat first. I flex the arm, testing it, and it holds, barely. And then when it's big enough and good enough that they can't ignore it, I'm going to go have a conversation with the woman who called me a loss she could minimize. Ren snorts. That's a long way up from a holding cell. Everything's a long way up from the bottom, I say. That's the only place the exploits are worth anything. Somewhere above us, muffled through stone, the crowd roars for a fight I'm not in yet. I close my eyes and start planning the next one. Winning, it turns out, comes with a purse. Nobody tells you this at the summoning hall. The arena pays its winners a cut of the day's takings, coin pressed into your hand by a bored clerk who logs it in a ledger and moves you along. It's not much. My 2 wins have earned me a small stack of Silurian silver that Ren informs me is less than a dock worker makes and more than most fighters ever see, because most fighters lose. I keep it in a cloth pouch tied inside my shirt, and I've spent exactly none of it, because in every game I've ever played, hoarding early currency is how you afford the thing that breaks the level open later. Then they tell me who I'm fighting next, and I understand that later has arrived. Hibishuzan, Mitsuki says, and for the first time since I've known her, she doesn't sound like she's enjoying the information she's about to sell. She's giving this one for free, which frightens me more than any price would. The goddess of speed, and copier, this is the fight where your gift stops working. I sit up. Explain. Body enhancement gift. Not a spell she casts, not a tool she wields, it's her. Her whole body, faster and stronger and more responsive than anything human should be. There's nothing to steal because there's no discrete skill to observe. She doesn't repeat a pattern. She doesn't have a signature move you can bait. She's just faster than you at everything all the time, and she wins by being faster. Mitsuki lets that sit. Ren had 2 tools and a habit. You beat her by owning her habit. Hibi has no tools and no habit. She has speed. You can't outthink a body that's already moved before you finish the thought. Ren, who's taken to hanging around whether I ask her to or not, makes a face. I've watched Hibi fight. It's not even fun. She just arrives. You throw a punch and she's already behind you. You set a flame and she's through it before it clings. She humiliates people worse than I ever did. Honestly, at least when I burned someone, they got to feel like they were in a fight. Hibi makes you feel like furniture she's rearranging. And she scorns the slow, Mitsuki adds. The weak too, but especially the slow. She thinks speed is the only virtue. A copier with reduced strength stolen skills is, to her, the single most contemptible thing in the arena. Everything she hates, distilled. She'll want to make this fast and humiliating. She'll be insulted she has to fight you at all. She pauses. One thing in your favor, thin as it is, her enhancement isn't bottomless. Push a fight long enough and it does start to eat at her, even her. But a short bout she's got in hand, and she'll want this short. I turn all of it over, and I feel the familiar cold pleasure of a problem that looks impossible, because impossible-looking problems are just problems where everyone's accepted the designer's terms. So the standard analysis says I lose, I say. My gift needs a repeated observable skill. She has none. My gift produces weak copies. Even if I could copy her enhancement, a fraction of superhuman speed is just ordinary speed, and ordinary loses to superhuman every time. I nod slowly. That's the fight everyone sees, which means the priests scheduled this fight specifically to end the copier's little streak, because on paper it's unlosable against. That's exactly why they scheduled it, Mitsuki confirms. You've made them nervous. 2 wins, a story spreading, the flame executioner following you around fetching water. They want the joke put back in its box. Hibi is the box. Good, I say. Ren stares at me. Good? When the designer builds a fight to be unwinnable, they stop guarding it. Nobody defends a locked door. I stand up, testing my forearm. It's healing, the blistering gone down, grips coming back. I can close a fist hard now without the skin screaming. I need to go shopping. The black market below the sand is a thing I'd heard about and never seen, because you need coin to be let in, and I've been hoarding mine. It runs out of a series of connected cells on the lowest level, past a guard who takes a cut of everything and asks no questions. The arena tolerates it because a fighter who can buy an edge fights harder, and hard fights fill seats. Ren walks me down and vouches for me, which apparently means something. The flame executioner's name still carries even attached to a servant's leash. I go looking for 2 things, and I have a theory about each, and I'm about to find out whether Silurian alchemy obeys rules I can exploit. The first thing is a buff, something one-shot, consumable, that raises a stat for a short window. There's a whole shelf of them, graded by class. The merchant explains the system with the weary patience of someone who's explained it 1,000 times. 9th class is snake oil, barely does anything, cheap. 1st class is what they feed frontline heroes before a battle, world-changing, unaffordable. Everything in between is a curve of price and power. My hoarded silver, spent all at once, buys me exactly 1 5th class buff, a squat vial of something that smells like copper and mint, that the merchant swears will sharpen the body's edge. For the length of a hard fight. 5th class, middle of the road, nothing that would impress Hibi. That's fine. I'm not buying it to impress Hibi. I'm buying it because a 5th class buff is a known quantity, a fixed, reliable enhancement I can plan around, and plans built on known quantities beat improvisation against superhuman speed. The second thing is the one I actually came for, and I have to describe it 3 ways before the merchant understands, because it's not a thing anyone usually asks for. I want an alchemical compound, I say, something that amplifies a transfer. When 2 effects touch skin to skin, direct contact, I want the thing being transferred between them to be stronger at the point of contact, not a buff on me. A multiplier on the connection itself. The merchant, a thin man with alchemist's stains up both forearms, gives me a long look. That's contact catalyst, rare but rare and unwanted, which is the only reason it's cheap enough for the likes of you. Nobody fights with it, because in a fight you don't usually want to strengthen the connection between yourself and the person hitting you. He says it like a warning. So it sits on my shelf gathering dust while the buffs sell out. Dangerous too, it doesn't care which direction the effect flows, it just amplifies whatever crosses the boundary. Alchemists use it to force reagent bonds. What are you planning to transfer, boy? That's my business, I say, and set down the last of my silver, and it's not quite enough, so I add the 5th class buffs change, and Ren, unprompted, drops a few coins of her own on the pile with a shrug that says, I'm invested now, apparently. The merchant counts it, sighs, and hands me a small stoppered vial of something oily and faintly luminous. It's a thin coat, he warns. One use. Wears off within the hour once it's exposed to air, and it burns your skin if you leave it on too long. You'll want it off within, say, a quarter hour of applying. Contact catalyst doesn't discriminate. He fixes me with a look. Whatever you're doing, boy, the compound will make it more so. If your plan is bad, this makes it worse, faster. My plan's not bad, I say. It just looks bad. Those are different. I walk out of the black market with everything I own converted into 2 vials and a theory, and Ren walks beside me, and after a while she says, You know I still don't understand your plan. I don't have it yet, I admit. I have the pieces. I know I can't copy her nothing to observe. I know I can't outspeed her physics. I know a fraction of her enhancement is useless to me. I turn the contact catalyst vial over in my fingers, so I stopped thinking about what her speed does for her, and started thinking about what her speed does to her. And superhuman speed isn't free. A body moving that fast is a body barely under control. Control is the price of speed, and she's spent years learning to pay it. Which means the thing she's most confident about her control is the thing she's never had to defend, because nobody's ever been able to threaten it. Ren frowns. You can't outrace her, so you're going to make her crash. I'm going to make her crash, I agree. I just have to be the wall she crashes into, at the exact moment she's committed to the crash. Which means I have to lose every exchange but the last one. I feel it settling into shape now, the way it did with Ren, not a single perfect moment, but a plan that turns my guaranteed losses into the setup. She wants this fast and humiliating, so I'll let it be fast and humiliating, right up until it isn't. There's a woman watching me train. I notice her on the 3rd day of prep, and it takes me until the 4th to place why she unsettles me. She's not watching the way the other fighters watch, with the sidelong curiosity of people cataloging a threat. She watches the way I watch, measuring, reading the system, not the person. She's older, lean, gray threaded through dark hair, a stillness to her that says she's fought a great deal and stopped needing to prove it. She sits in the corner of the practice yard, a bare sand square below the sand where fighters are allowed to move and stretch under a guard's eye, and she watches me not fight. Because I'm not training my body, there's no point. I'm training the sequence in my head and walking through the geometry with my feet. On the 4th day, she speaks, without getting up, without looking directly at me. You've already fought it, she says. I stop. Fought what? The Hebe fight. In there. She taps her own temple, once. I've watched you for 3 days. You're not preparing. Preparing is when you don't know how it goes. You're rehearsing. You already know how it goes, and you're just walking the ground so your feet remember. She finally turns her head and looks at me directly, and her eyes are unsettlingly patient. I've only seen 2 kinds of fighters do that. The ones who are lying to themselves and the ones who've genuinely read the ending. You don't look like a liar. Who are you? Suzuka. She says it like it's an answer that used to mean something and doesn't anymore. I've been down here a long time. Longer than your flame executioner. Long enough to stop caring who wins. A pause. You made me care for about 10 minutes yesterday, which annoyed me, so I came to figure out why. And did you? Partly. She looks back at the sand square. You fight like the arena is a rule book someone left lying around and you're the only one who bothered to read it. Everyone else in here fights like the rules or the weather a thing that happens to you. You fight like they're a thing you can use. She's quiet a moment. I fought like that once. Then I lost enough that I stopped. It's easier to stop. Another pause. Longer. I'll tell you one thing for free, since you didn't ask, which is the only reason I'll say it. Hibi Shuzan has lost exactly twice in her career, and both times it wasn't to someone faster. It was to someone who made her doubt her own body for half a second. Speed like hers runs on total trust that when she tells her legs to move, they'll be exactly where she put them. Crack the trust and the speed becomes the enemy. She'll overshoot her own targets. She stands, unfolding with the economy of someone who's learned not to waste emotion. You already knew that, though. I can see it on your face. So I've told you nothing. Good luck, rulebook. She walks off before I can answer, and I stand there with 2 vials tied inside my shirt and the pleasant, dangerous certainty that I've just been read by someone I'm going to want on my side of the sand someday. I file her under a folder I'm starting to build people worth beating, which is only barely different from people worth having, and I go back to walking the geometry. The night before the fight, I lay it out for Ren one more time, because saying a plan aloud to someone who'll challenge it is the best way to find the crack before an enemy does. 5th class buff, I take it before I go out. Not to match her, I can't, but so my body's at its own sharpest edge, because the whole plan comes down to one moment of my timing, and I want every fraction of my own reaction I can afford. Ren nods. Contact catalyst. I coat my hands and forearms with it before the gate. Thin. It amplifies whatever crosses the boundary between me and whatever I touch. And what crosses the boundary? Her enhancement. Here's the piece I've been circling for 4 days, the piece that turns a losing fight into a winning one. My gift copies an ability from an enemy. Everyone assumes copy means duplicate. I get my own weak version, running on my own body, but watch the wording. I quote it because I've read it in my head 1,000 times. Copies one ability observed in an enemy. It doesn't say I run a separate instance. It says I copy the ability. When I touch her, skin to skin, with the catalyst amplifying the connection between us, I'm not going to make a weak copy of her speed for myself. That's useless. I'm going to reach into the enhancement while it's running on her body and copy it wrong, distort it. Amplify the transfer so hard that for one instant her enhancement is answering to the connection between us instead of to her. Ren stares at me. You don't even know if that works. No, I admit. It might just give me a weak copy and do nothing to her, and then I lose, and I'm someone's servant tomorrow. That's the real risk, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. I look at the 2 vials. But here's why I think it works. My gift is reduced strength. Everyone treats that as the weakness. But reduced strength on a copy means the copy is unstable. It's her power running badly, imperfectly, at a fraction. And an unstable version of her enhancement, forced onto her own body through an amplified contact at the exact moment she's committed to a full-speed rush. Makes her body outrun her control, Ren finishes, and I watch it land, watch her see it. You're not stealing her speed, you're giving her bad speed. Your reduced copy is the sabotage. The garbage version is the whole point. The garbage version is the whole point. I agree, and it's the truest sentence anyone's said about my gift since I rolled it in a hall full of people who laughed. She rushes me at full speed, trusting her body completely. At the moment of contact, I don't defend and I don't copy for myself. I dump a reduced, distorted instance of her own enhancement back into her through the catalyst. Her legs get an instruction that's a fraction wrong. She overshoots. She flies past me, off balance, out of control, trusting a body that just betrayed her for the first time in her life. And then you do the same thing you did to me, Ren says quietly. You're not strong enough to win the fight. So you make her disarm herself, and you win the half-second after. A cheap trip, a pin. Nothing impressive. I tie the vials back inside my shirt. The whole fight, I'm going to be furniture she rearranges, exactly like you said. Right up until the piece of furniture reaches out and touches her while she's moving too fast to stop. Ren is quiet for a long moment. Then she does something she hasn't done before she reaches over, and awkwardly, like she's out of practice at the gesture, grips my shoulder once. When I lost to you, I thought I'd been unlucky, she says. I've spent a week telling myself it was a fluke, that you caught me soft. She takes her hand back. I don't think that anymore. You're going to break her, Utah. Not with speed. With the thing she can't imagine anyone having, which is a plan she isn't in. Above us, muffled through the stone, the crowd is already gathering for tomorrow, and somewhere up there, a woman who thinks slowness is the only sin is being told she has to waste an afternoon on the arena's favorite joke. I take the buff vial out one last time, look at the copper mint liquid catching the torchlight, and put it back. Tomorrow the gate rises on a fight I've already lost every exchange of, in my head, 100 times right up to the last one. I take the 5th class buff in the tunnel, 2 minutes before the gate, because the merchant said it lasts the length of a hard fight and I don't want to burn a second of it standing around. It tastes like copper and mint and cold water, and it hits fast, a sharpening at the edges of everything, the torchlight going crisp, the sound separating out, my own heartbeat suddenly a thing I can count. Not strength, not speed, not really. Just my body, running at its own best, every reaction shaved as fine as it'll go, which is still slower than a normal athlete. But I don't need to be fast, I need to be on time once. Then I coat my hands and forearms with the contact catalyst, working it in thin the way the merchant said, and it goes on oily and faintly warm and immediately starts a low itch under the skin that tells me the clock is running quarter of an hour before it starts to burn me, instead of just amplifying. That's a lot of margin for a fight Hebe wants to finish in under a minute. I stopper the vial, tie it off, and flex my hands. The itch spreads. Fine. The horn sounds above. The gate rises. The sound of the crowd is different today. Word's traveled, of course it has. Word is the only thing that travels down here, and the tiers are packed, because everyone wants to watch the copier streak finally die against the goddess of speed. There's an appetite in the noise, an anticipation of a joke's punchline finally landing. I feel it press on me, and I let it, because a crowd expecting my humiliation is a crowd that isn't watching for the real move. I walk out onto the sand. Hebe Shuzan is already there, and she does not laugh at me the way Ren did. That's worse. Ren's laughter was theater, an invitation, a fighter working a crowd. Hebe doesn't work the crowd at all. She stands loose and bored in the center of the sand, arms crossed, and looks at me the way you look at a chore. Younger than Ren, maybe my age, with the compact, restless build of a sprinter, and an expression of pure, undisguised contempt that isn't even performing for the tears. She just genuinely can't believe she's out here. "You're the copier," she says. Flat. "The reduced one. They pulled me off a real bracket for this." She uncrosses her arms. "I'm going to be honest with you because you're going to be my furniture in about 30 seconds, and I don't lie to furniture. There's nothing here. You have nothing I can't outrun and nothing I'd want to copy. You beat a flamethrower who stands still and gloats. I don't stand still. This isn't a fight. It's a chore they gave me to remind everyone that slow is slow." She rolls her shoulders, and her whole body seems to engage the enhancement coming online, a subtle wrongness to how ready she suddenly is, like watching a video sped up while everything around it stays normal. "Nothing personal, I just hate slow more than I hate anything." "Then this'll bother you," I say. She doesn't answer. The horn sounds. She's on me before the sound finishes. I knew she'd be fast. I've spent 4 days telling myself how fast, walking the geometry, rehearsing the reaction. None of it prepared me for the reality, which is that Hebe Shuzan simply arrives. No wind-up, no tell, no bridging distance. One instant she's 10 paces off, and the next her fist is in my gut, and the air's leaving my body, and I'm folding around it before my sharpened, buffed, best possible reaction has finished registering that she moved. She's already gone, behind me. She taps the back of my head, contemptuous, a light insulting knock, "Your furniture," and is gone again, back to the center, arms recrossing. The crowd roars. There it is, the punchline they came for. I straighten up, wheezing, and I do the hardest thing in the plan, which is not the last exchange, it's this one. It's not adjusting. It's not reaching for her when she comes in, not springing the trap early on instinct because instinct is screaming that I need to do something before she does that again. The catalyst is on my hands. Every cell of me wants to grab her the next time she's close. And if I do it now, cold, uncommitted, she'll simply not be there. She'll graze past and pull the punch, and I'll grab air, and the trap's sprung on nothing, and I've got one shot at this, and I'll have wasted it flinching. Furniture, I tell myself. Be furniture. She rearranges furniture until the furniture reaches out. At the one instant she's fully committed and can't stop. So I let her hit me. Again and again. She works me over the way Ren promised, arriving, striking, gone, tapping my head, knocking me down, letting me get up, playing to a crowd that stopped laughing at me and started laughing with her, because there's nothing crueler than watching someone stand up over and over to be knocked down by an opponent who's barely trying. It's not the brazen weight of Ren, it's worse. Ren at least engaged with me. Hebe treats me like a drill dummy, and each hit lands somewhere non-lethal because she's not trying to end me. She's trying to demonstrate me, to prove to the whole arena that the copier is exactly the joke they were told. And I take it. I take all of it. Because every time she rushes in, I'm learning the one thing I actually came here to learn, the thing 4 days of rehearsal in my head couldn't give me, the shape of her commitment. Where her weight goes when she truly means a hit versus when she's just tapping. How she loads the full-speed rushes, the ones with real intent behind them, differently from the contemptuous little pokes. Because my whole plan needs her fully committed, moving too fast to correct, and I have to be able to tell the difference between a real rush and a taunt in the fraction of a second I'll have. And there's a second thing I'm watching for, because Mitsuki said the enhancement isn't bottomless push a fight long enough and it eats at even her, and I want the fight long. I want her a hair past comfortable, because a tiring body is a body already fighting its own control. By the fourth or fifth exchange, through the pain and the copper mint sharpness and the crowd's laughter, I've got it. When she means it, her rear foot digs in half a beat before she moves. It's nothing. It's less than nothing. A body that fast barely needs to load at all, but the buff has my edges crisp, and I'm not trying to react to her speed. I'm trying to react to the tell that precedes her speed, and that's a game I can play. React to the windup, not the strike. It's the same principle as everything I've ever done. You can't beat a fast thing at being fast. You beat it by moving before it does, off information it gives you for free because it's never had to hide it. My left arm is bruised over the old flame scar. My ribs ache where she's caught me twice. I've been on the sand 3 times and gotten up 3 times, and the itch of the catalyst on my hands has gone from itch to burn. The clock's real now. Minutes, not many, and if I wait too long, the compound cooks my own skin off before it does anything to her. Hibby is starting to get bored, which is the last thing I need and the thing I've been waiting for. "This is pathetic," she says, not even winded, standing over me where I've gone down the 3rd time. "Yield. I'm not going to keep doing this. You're not a fight, you're a formality, and I've got a real bracket to get back to." She actually sounds annoyed, which is perfect, because a bored fighter who wants to leave is a fighter about to throw one big committed finishing rush to end the chore. Last chance furniture. Yield, and I'll tell people you at least stood up a lot. I get to my feet, slow, selling every ache, which isn't hard because most of it's real. I put my burning catalyst slick hands up in a guard that's clearly too weak to matter, and I make it look like the guard of a man who's decided he's going to lose but wants to lose on his feet. "No," I say, "come take it." Her contempt flickers into irritation. Good. Irritation makes people commit, and she plants her rear foot. There. The tell. Half a beat of load. She means this one. This is the big finishing rush. Full speed, full commitment, a body check meant to fold me up and end the chore, and she's coming in low and fast and completely, utterly trusting the body that has never once failed her. I move before she does. Not to dodge. I can't dodge her. I move to meet her. I drop my weak guard and I open my arms, and to the whole arena it looks like a broken man giving up, spreading his arms to accept the finishing blow, and the crowd's roar spikes because they think they're about to watch the copier get run through. Hibby's committed, moving too fast to read the change, reading it as surrender if she reads it at all, and she crashes into my open arms, and my catalyst-coated hands close on her bare forearms, skin to skin. At the exact instant her fully committed body-checking rush plants all its momentum into me. And I copy her, not for me. I don't take her speed for myself, that's the useless play, the one everyone would expect, a weak copy running on my slow body. Instead, I reach into the enhancement while it's live and running on her body, and through the amplified contact, I make the copy the way my gift always makes it, reduced. Distorted, wrong. And I dump that garbage instance back across the boundary, into the enhancement that's currently answering to Hibby's every trusting instruction. For one instant, her body gets 2 answers. Her own perfect enhancement says stop here, plant, fold him. And the reduced copy amplified by the catalyst, screaming across the contact at a fraction of the strength, but a full measure of interference says something a fraction wrong. Her legs get an instruction that's the ghost of her own power, off by a hair, unstable, and for the first time in Hebe Shuzan's life, her body does not do exactly what she told it. She overshoots. The rush that was supposed to fold me up carries her through the space I'm in and out the other side, her plant foot landing where her control expected but her momentum somewhere else entirely, and she tumbles past me, off balance, arms wheeling, a superhuman body moving at full speed with its steering suddenly betraying it. The catalyst copy is already fading. It was a fraction of a fraction. It lasts a heartbeat, but a heartbeat at that speed is a body flung completely out of its own control. I have never seen anything on her face before but contempt and boredom. What's there now, in the half-second she flies past me, is pure, undiluted disbelief. The disbelief of someone who has never once, not in years of being the fastest thing on the sand, felt her own legs lie to her. And then I do the same thing I did to Ren, the thing I'll probably do to everyone, because it's the only thing my whole build is for. I win the half second after. She's off balance, past me, overshot, her body scrambling to reassert the control that just glitched, and I don't need strength for what comes next. A body moving that fast, that offline, is a body one stumble from the ground. I stick out my foot into the path of her recovering stride, a cheap trip, the cheapest, most unglamorous move in any fight, and her own betrayed speed does the rest. She goes down hard, momentum carrying her into a sprawl across the sand, and before she can convert the fall into one of her impossible recoveries, I'm on her back with my knee between her shoulders and my burning catalyst hands pinning her wrists to the ground. I'm not stronger than her. If she gets her body back, she throws me off like a coat. So I don't give her the chance to trust her body again. I keep contact, hands on her wrists, and I let the threat of it hang there, the memory of what happened the last time she moved fast against me. She can feel my hands on her skin. She just learned what my hands do. Don't, I say, low by her ear under the crowd noise. Move fast right now and I'll put the wrong answer back in your legs and you'll break your own arm trying to stand. You felt it. You know I can. So don't move fast. Yield. She's rigid under me, every muscle wound to throw me, and then she feels my catalyst-slick thumb press against the pulse in her wrist. A promise, and the fury in her body drains out into something I recognize because I've felt it myself 3 days ago. In a summoning hall, the specific stillness of a person whose fundamental understanding of the world just broke. How? She says, not yielding, demanding. I'm faster than you. I'm faster than everyone. How? You are, I agree. That was never in question. I didn't beat your speed. I beat the thing your speed runs on, which is you trusting your own body completely, which you'd never had to defend because nobody's ever been able to reach it. The burn on my hands is real now, urgent. The catalyst turning on my own skin, and I need this over. You're not slow, Hibby. You're the fastest person I've ever seen. You just met the first person who didn't try to race you. I press the pulse point once more. Yield. And I'll tell people the truth that nobody could have caught you, so I had to make you catch yourself. For a long moment she doesn't answer, and I genuinely don't know if she'll take it or if pride will make her spend her broken body on one doomed thrash. The catalyst burns, the crowd holds its breath. Yield, she says. The horn sounds. And the arena does something it did not do when I beat Ren. When I beat Ren, the crowd roared in disbelief, the noise of broken math. This time, as I climb off Hibishuzen and haul my burning hands away and stagger upright, bruised and aching and grinning despite myself, the sound that comes down out of the packed tears is different. They cheer, not for the goddess of speed, for me. For the furniture that reached out and made the fastest thing on the sand fall over her own feet, for the joke that stopped being a joke twice in a row, for the copier who has now beaten 2 champions with nothing but a worthless gift and a plan they weren't in. It's the first time in this world anyone's cheered for me, and it's loud, and it's real, and I stand there in the middle of the sand letting it wash over me, and I let myself feel it for exactly 3 seconds before I file it away, because a crowd that cheers for you today is the same crowd that laughed at you last week, and both are just weather. But 3 seconds. I let myself have 3 seconds. Hibby is sitting up on the sand, staring at her own hands, at the legs that betrayed her, and then up at me, and her contempt is entirely gone, replaced by something rawer and more useful, the offended, fascinated attention of someone who's just discovered a whole category of losing she didn't know existed and can't stop turning it over. I go over and I offer her my hand. My skin's angry red from the catalyst. She looks at it, then at me. You're bound to me now, I say. And before you decide how much you hate that, I'm not going to make you furniture. I run a team. I've got a flame executioner who fetches water and argues with me, and I've got a plan bigger than this arena, and I need someone who's actually fast, not someone who's fast for a chore. That's you. Fastest I've ever seen. I don't want to waste it. I keep the hand out. So, you want to spend your debt being humiliated, or you want to spend it being the fastest person on a team that's going to break this whole place open? Hibby looks at my hand for a long time. Then slowly, she takes it testing it, I think. Testing whether the contact does anything now that the fight's over and the catalyst's fading, and when nothing happens, when it's just a hand, she lets me pull her to her feet. You made my own legs lie to me, she says, almost accusing, almost admiring. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know anyone could do that. Neither did I admit, until about a minute ago. It was a theory. She stares at me. You beat me on a theory. I beat everyone on a theory, I say. That's the whole gift. Come on, there's someone I want you to meet, and she's going to be insufferable about being right that you'd end up on our side. And Hibishuzen, goddess of speed, Scorner of the slow. The fight I was scheduled to lose walks off the sand beside me, into the tunnel, into the team, while the crowd that came to watch me die is still cheering my name. Later, the infirmary washes the compound off my hands before it eats any deeper. Angry red skin, stinging, nothing that won't heal in a few days. I add it to the ledger of what this win cost: 1 buff, 1 catalyst, both vials spent, every coin I owned converted into a woman who's now bound to me and doesn't hate it. Cheap, for the fastest fighter under the sand. The arena changes the rules on me, which is what a system does when a player keeps winning at the game it built. They move me and my 2 bound fighters out of the general holding block into a barracks, a wide, low room with actual cots, a table, a brazier, and a door that locks from the inside, which I'm told is a privilege reserved for gladiators who've earned a following. A following means seats sold. Seats sold means coin for the arena. The barracks isn't a reward, it's an investment in a product that's performing, and then they tell me the new format. Teams, the clerk says, logging it in his ledger without looking up. You've got a stable now, 2 servants. Solo brackets are for fighters without followings. You've got a following, so you go into team formats. 2-on-2, 3-on-3, eventually more. Your fighters, their fighters, on the sand together. He finally glances up, bored. House keeps the rule the same. Losing side becomes the winning sides, top to bottom. You lose a team match, the whole team changes hands. You win one, you take theirs. He goes back to the ledger. Bigger stakes, better show. The priestess signed off personally, if that means anything to you. It means everything to me, actually, but I keep my face still. Reika's watching. Reika's escalating. She priced me at nothing, watched me win twice, and instead of letting me grind up through solos where a lucky plan wins a single fight, she's putting me in a format where 1 loss costs me everything, the whole team, gone in 1 match. She's raising the stakes until the odds catch up with me. It's smart. It's exactly what I'd do to a player who kept breaking my level. Fine. New format. Read the rules. The rules, it turns out, have a problem I didn't anticipate, and the problem isn't the arena. The problem is that Ren and Hibby cannot be in the same room. She's a gimmick. Hibby says on the second night in the barracks, loud enough that it's clearly meant to carry. Fire that sticks. Ooh, very scary if you're a rookie who's never seen a bucket of sand. She stands in one place and gloats. That's not a fighter. That's a campfire with a personality. Ren, across the room, doesn't rise to it immediately, which is worse, because when she finally does, she does it with the lazy contempt she used to aim at people she was about to burn. At least I have a gift, I understand. You're a body that goes fast. That's it. That's the whole thing. A very fast body with nothing between its ears, which is why the copier beat you by making your own legs embarrass you. She examines her nails. I lost to a plan. You lost to your own feet. One of those is more humiliating, and it isn't mine. Hibby is off her cot and across the room before I've fully registered she's moved speed. Still, always, and Ren's hand is already wreathed in flame, and I'm between them before either lands anything, which is genuinely stupid of me because I'm the weakest person in the room by a wide margin, and if either of them decides to go through me, I'm going through the wall. Stop, I say. Not loud, flat. The voice I used on the sand, the calm one, because calm is a state I can perform even when I don't feel it. Both of you, sit down. They don't sit down. But they stop, which is enough, because the leash the arena's binding gives my word a weight it wouldn't have otherwise, and both of them feel it pull. Ren's flame gutters out. Hebe steps back, jaw tight. You're both right, I say into the silence. That's the annoying part. Ren, you did lose to a plan, and Hebe did lose to her own feet, and both of those are true because I made them true, because I fight people by turning the thing they're proudest of into the thing that beats them. Ren's proudest of her flame's control, so I used her own gloating against her. Hibby's proudest of her body's obedience, so I made her body disobey. I do that to everyone. It's the only thing I can do. I look between them. So here's what I need you to understand, and I need you to actually hear it, because it's the whole reason you're both alive and standing in a room with cots instead of chained in a cell fetching someone's wine. I have their attention now, at least. Reluctant, hostile, but attention. Neither of you is the ace, I say. There's no ace. That's the mistake every team in this arena makes, and it's why I'm going to beat all of them. The strong teams have an ace and support a champion and the fighters who feed the champion. And they lose to me because a team with 1 point of failure is a puzzle with 1 solution, and I only have to find 1 solution. I point at Ren. Your flame isn't a killing tool. It's a control tool. It denies ground. It forces people to move where you want. It clings and eats attention. You're an area. You shape the fight. I point at Hebe. Your speed isn't a killing tool either, it's a tempo tool. You decide when things happen. You're the fastest clock on the sand and everyone else has to fight at your pace. I lower my hands. A campfire that shapes the ground and a clock that sets the pace. Do you understand what those two things do together? Or are you going to keep measuring whose gift is bigger like a couple of rookies? Silence. Then Hebe, grudgingly, her flame denies ground. If she walls off part of the sand, the enemy has fewer places to be. And fewer places to be, I say, means fewer places I have to watch you arrive from. Yes. Ren, slower, working it. And if she's setting the tempo, forcing them to react fast, they don't have time to figure out where my fire is going to grow. They're too busy chasing her to notice the ground closing behind them. Yes. I let it sit. You're not competing. You never were. You're two halves of a trap, and the enemy is the thing that falls in it. But only if you can stand to be in the same trap. So, can you? Or do I need to find a way to win with one of you and sell the other back to the black market for buff money? I wouldn't do it. I've decided I don't sell people. That's the whole point of me. But they don't know that yet, and the threat lands, and I watch both of them recalculate. I can work with the campfire, Hebe says. I can work with the feet, Ren says. It's not friendship. It's a ceasefire held together by a shared unwillingness to be the one who got sold. But it's a place to start, and I've learned that most things worth building start as a ceasefire that nobody wants to be the first to break. We win the first team match, and we win it ugly, and I learn more from it than from any of my solo fights. 2-on-2 against a pair I've never studied, a spear user with reach, and a woman whose gift lets her harden the air into short-lived shields. Mitsuki gives me the intel for free again, which is still unsettling, and I build a plan around Ren shaping the ground and Hebe setting the tempo. And the plan works right up until it doesn't, because two fighters who've fought together for years read our coordination and adapt, and for about 10 seconds it's chaos. Hebe arriving in the wrong place because Ren's wall grew slower than I timed it, the spear nearly taking Hebe's head off because I misjudged the reach. And in that 10 seconds of chaos, I do the thing I actually came to learn. I stop running the plan and I start reading the fight live, and I copy off the spear user, a reduced version of his reach extension, and off the air shield woman, a weak instance of her hardening. Neither is strong enough to matter as a weapon, but my whole build is knowing that individual scraps don't have to matter as weapons. I use the weak reach copy to bat the spear offline for exactly the instant Hebe needs, and I stack the weak air shield in front of Ren so she can hold her ground long enough to close her wall, and the trap snaps shut, and we win. 2 more fighters bound, but that's not what I take from it. What I take from it is this. My arsenal is the team's, and the team's is my arsenal. Every fighter I bind, I can study. Every gift I study, I can copy at a fraction, and a fraction chained into a plan is enough. I've been thinking of my roster as a team. It's more than that. It's a library. 6 weak stolen skills won't beat anyone alone. But 6 weak stolen skills, plus 6 real fighters who own the strong versions, plus a brain that knows exactly which fraction covers which gap, I file it, and it's a big file, and it goes under a folder I've started calling the endgame, which is empty except for a shape I can't quite see yet. Suzuka joins the way she watches, quietly and on her own terms. She's the fighter on the losing side of our third team match, and when it's over and she's bound to me, she doesn't rage like Ren did, or demand explanations like Hebe did. She just walks off the sand beside me and says, "You fought that exactly the way I said you would. Read the ending, walk the ground, won the half-second after." A pause. "I lost on purpose, more or less. I wanted to see it from the inside." "You threw a fight to get bound to me," I say. "That's insane." "I've been down here longer than anyone left alive," Suzuka says, which is almost word for word what Mitsuki said, and I file the echo. I stopped caring who won years ago because winning down here means owning more people, and I was tired of owning people. And then a rulebook shows up and starts winning by not owning people the way everyone else does, by turning defeated enemies into a team that actually functions. She shrugs. "I wanted to be inside something that works before I die down here. So I let you win. Call it insane." I call it the first interesting decision I've made in a decade. She's a veteran tactician, it turns out a field coordinator, someone who reads a fight in real time the way I read it in advance. Which is exactly the gap in my game, because I plan brilliantly and adapt slowly, and Suzuka adapts on instinct. Within a week she's calling adjustments mid-match, while I run the strategy, a second brain on the sand where I can't be, and for the first time, I feel the team stop being a collection of my solutions, and start being a thing that thinks on its own. Komaki is harder. Komaki is a samurai guard gladiator, bound by an honor code so rigid it's almost a gift of its own, and she loses to us clean in a team match and then refuses to accept the binding as anything but a stain. She won't eat with us. She won't speak beyond what the leash forces. She kneels when I enter the barracks not out of respect, out of a self-punishing insistence on performing the shame she thinks servitude is. Stop kneeling, I tell her the third time. I lost, Komaki says, eyes down. I am bound. This is what the bound do. I will not pretend the shame is less than it is by refusing the posture of it. And I realize, watching her, that Komaki is the exact opposite problem from Ren. Ren expected cruelty and I disarmed her with dignity. Komaki is inflicting the cruelty on herself, because her honor code says, a defeated warrior deserves it, and no amount of me being kind will touch that, because she doesn't believe she's owed kindness. So I don't offer kindness. I offer her something her code can actually accept. Then serve something worth serving, I say. You think servitude is shame? Fine. I won't argue your code, it's yours, but your code has a way out and you're not using it. A blade in service to a worthy cause isn't shamed by the service, it's honored by the cause. You know that. It's in every honor tradition there's ever been. The shame isn't in kneeling. The shame is in kneeling to something small. I crouch down to her level. So look at what you're kneeling to. Not me. I'm nobody. I'm a weak copier who won a lottery of a gift. Kneel to what I'm building. A team made of the people this arena throws away that's going to break the law that throws them away. If that's not a cause worth a blade, tell me, and I'll leave you to your shame. But if it is, I stand back up. Then get up, because I don't need a servant performing humiliation. I need a blade that's chosen its cause. Komaki is quiet for a very long time, kneeling on the barracks floor. Then she stands, and she doesn't kneel again. I will judge the cause as we go, she says stiffly. If it proves small, I will return to my shame. That's fair, I say. That's the most honest deal anyone's offered me since I got here. Here's the night I don't plan for. We've been a team, a real one. 5 of us now. Ren and Hebe and Suzuka and Komaki and me for a few weeks, winning team matches, building the library, and the rivalries have worn down from open hostility to the low, constant friction of people who fight together and haven't decided to like it. And on this particular night, the day's takings are good, so the water comes with bread and something extra I don't recognize, a stew, actual hot food, a bonus the arena throws to a stable that's selling seats. And we eat it. Together. Around the table in the barracks, all 5 of us, because there's one pot and it's easier to share than to sulk in corners. And it goes wrong in the best possible way. Hebe steals bread off Ren's plate at superhuman speed, purely to prove she can, and Ren sets it on fire in Hebe's hand before she can eat it, and Hebe drops it swearing, and Suzuka quiet. Watchful Suzuka says, deadpan, without looking up from her bowl, the goddess of speed, defeated by breakfast. And Hebe rounds on her, and Komaki, of all people, makes a sound that might be a laugh, and immediately tries to pretend she didn't. And Ren points at her and says, the samurai laughed. I heard it. Honor is dead. And Komaki goes rigid and denies it with such wounded dignity that even Hebe starts laughing. And then they're all arguing, needling, throwing bread. Hebe too fast to hit, and Ren's flames snuffed the instant they leave her hand because she's not actually trying to hurt anyone, just make a point, and Suzuka narrating the whole thing like a bored oracle, and Komaki failing completely to stay above it. And I sit at the head of the table and watch it, and something happens in my chest that I don't have a file for. A while ago, I've genuinely lost precise count of the days. They blur down here without a sky, but it's been weeks. A lot of them I was a bad purchase in a summoning hall, priced at nothing, thrown underground to generate coin until I died. I had a cellmate who traded information for favors and an old man who told me the rules and then vanished. I had a gift the whole world laughed at. And now I have this, a table. A pot of stew. A flame executioner arguing with a speed goddess about bread while a veteran tactician commentates, and a samurai loses a war against her own dignity. Not servants, not a library, not a roster, not assets. I've been calling them assets in my head because it's safer, because assets don't hurt when the arena takes them away in a lost match. But they're not assets. I built a team out of people I had to beat. And somewhere in the beating and the binding and the arguing over bread, without deciding to, without a plan for it, I built a family. Ren catches me watching. The others don't notice Hebe and Komaki are locked in some furious debate about whether stealing food counts as dishonor, but Ren catches my eye across the chaos, and she doesn't say anything smart, which is unlike her. She just holds up a piece of bread, an offer, a small stupid gesture, and raises an eyebrow. I take it. You've got a look, she says quietly, under the noise. The look you get when you figured something out. What is it this time? I could tell her the truth, which is that I just realized I have something to lose now, and that everything I do from here is going to be shaped by not losing it, and that this is either the strongest I've ever been or the most vulnerable, and I genuinely can't tell which. Nothing, I say instead. Just planning. Liar. Ren says. But she says it fondly, and she goes back to arguing with Hebe, and I sit there eating bread I didn't earn, in a barracks with a locked door, surrounded by the people the world threw away, and I let myself have more than 3 seconds this time. I let myself have the whole meal. Because tomorrow there'll be a new format, or a new champion, or a new escalation from a silver-haired woman in a white and gold box who's still trying to make the odds catch up with me. Tomorrow I'll go back to being a rulebook, reading systems for the crack that breaks them open. But tonight there's stew, and an argument about bread, and a family I didn't plan. I'll take it. The rumor arrives before the man does, which Mitsuki tells me is always how it goes with Genya Asakura. He's coming here, she says, and she's not selling it. She's warning me, which is the 3rd time she's given information away for free, and I've stopped pretending that doesn't mean something. Genya Asakura, ex-general superhuman, one of the enhancement heroes the Theocracy summoned years back and sent to the front. He was the front for a while. A whole wing of Soloria's line was just him. She lets that sit. And then he walked off it. Abandoned rank, abandoned the war, came down here to the arena on purpose, volunteered, a general who chose the sand over command. Why, I ask. That's the part everyone tells wrong. Mitsuki leans back. The war's a slaughter. You knew that it's why they summon your kind, feed strong gifts to the front and throw weak ones down here. Genya spent years being a weapon in it, and somewhere in there he stopped being able to stomach killing conscripts who never chose to fight. So he quit. But a man like that can't just stop fighting. It's the only thing his whole self is built around. So he came here, where losing doesn't mean dying, where he can fight as hard as he wants, and nobody has to die at the end of it. A pause. And he came here for one specific reason. He heard there was someone in the Colosseum fast enough to be worth his time. He came to fight Hibi Shuzan. As an equal, general to goddess. I glance across the barracks, where Hibi is doing what she's started doing lately, which is sitting cross-legged and drilling her own control, moving her hands through slow, deliberate patterns, over and over, ever since I made her legs betray her. She hasn't trusted her body quite the same way since. She's building the trust back deliberately, brick by brick, and I've noticed it makes her better, not worse. A fighter who's learned her one weakness is a fighter who's learned she can have one. He wants Hibi specifically, I say. So he's going to challenge into a team match to get her. He's going to challenge into a team match. Mitsuki agrees, because that's how you get a specific opponent in this format, and he doesn't come alone. Now she gets to the part she really came to warn me about, and her voice changes. His partner is Sarah, healer. And copier, I need you to understand this before you build one of your plans, because if you build the wrong plan against Sarah, it kills someone on your side. She waits until I'm fully paying attention. Sarah's gift is a barrier, a dome. She raises it and nothing gets through. Not fire, not blades, not speed, not siege magic they tried at the front when Genya still ran with her. It has never been broken, not once by anyone at the front or down here. It's not very strong. It's unbreakable. That's not arena boasting. That's a documented fact with a body count of people who assumed otherwise. I sit with that, and for the first time in a while I feel the specific cold that means the problem might actually be a problem. Nothing's unbreakable, I say, but I say it carefully, testing it rather than asserting it. Everyone who's said that to Sarah's face is either bound to Genya now or dead trying, Mitsuki says. I'm not telling you to believe it's magic. I'm telling you that everyone who's tried to break it has failed, which means whatever the crack is, it's not one anyone's found by hitting it. And your whole thing is hitting the crack, so. She stands. Figure out a different thing. That's the free advice. Genya, you might handle. Sarah is the wall your gift can't punch through, and I've watched you long enough to know you don't have a plan for walls you can't punch. You have plans for enemies who do something. She just stands there and can't be beaten. That's a whole different puzzle. She leaves me with it, and I sit in the barracks and turn it over, and I don't like what I find, because for the first time since the summoning hall, the standard analysis and my analysis agree. I can't win the straightforward way. I do what I always do when I don't have a plan. I test. Kamaki agrees to help me mock it up, because Kamaki, since choosing her cause, has become the most useful kind of teammate, one who commits fully once committed. We can't reproduce Sarah's barrier, obviously, but I have Kamaki hold a defensive line with the air-hardening skill I copied weeks back, a weak version of a real shield, and I test everything I own against it. Not to break Kamaki's screen, that's trivial. It's a fraction of a real shield, but to feel out the category of the problem, to understand what it's like to fight a thing whose whole job is to not be beaten. And it's bad. It's bad in exactly the way Mitsuki said. Every copied attack I own is reduced. That's the gift. A fraction of a fireball, a fraction of a blade edge, a fraction of Genya's raw power. Once I copy it, none of it was ever going to punch through a barrier that the full-strength versions couldn't crack at the front. My whole arsenal is scraps, and scraps against a wall are nothing. I test the weak reach extension, the weak air hardening, even the weak flame Ren lends me a graze so I can copy Purgatory Flame properly for once, and none of it does anything a real weapon didn't already fail to do. Then I test the thing I've been avoiding testing, which is the stolen healing. Because here's a fact I haven't dwelt on. I copied a healing gift a couple of team matches back, off a bound support fighter I beat, and I filed it as nearly useless a reduced heal, a fraction of a real one, enough to close a small cut, not enough to matter in a real fight. Sarah's a healer too. If I could out-heal her, I could win a war of attrition. So I test my reduced heal against a cut on my own arm, and it's exactly as weak as I filed it. It takes minutes to do what Sarah could probably do in a heartbeat, and it cost me a startling amount of energy for the trickle it produces. Useless as a weapon, useless as attrition, a fraction of a heal against a full-strength healer who also has an unbreakable wall. I sit in the mock-up yard with a half-closed cut on my arm and my whole arsenal laid out in my head, and I do the thing I hate doing, which is admit that I've hit a wall I can't punch through. Every attack, reduced, useless against the barrier. Every defense, fine, but you don't win by defending. The heal, too weak to matter. Genya, a class above anything I've fought, strong enough that a direct exchange might genuinely kill someone on my side, because his blows don't pull the way the arena's non-lethal culture usually ensures a general's strength doesn't have a gentle setting. Suzuka finds me there, sitting with the problem. "You've got the wall face on," she says, settling down beside me with a veteran's economy. "I've seen it on 100 fighters who met Sarah. It's the face of realizing your whole style just stopped working." She's quiet a moment. "So stop trying to make your style work. That's the trap. Everyone who's failed against that barrier failed because they kept trying to break it with the tool they brought. You brought a can opener to a fight against a locked vault. The answer's never going to be a better can opener. Then what's the answer?" Suzuka looks at me, and for the first time I see something in her that's more than the tired veteran who threw a fight to be interesting again. I see the tactician who used to fight the way I do before she stopped caring. "You're asking the wrong question," she says. "You keep asking how to break the wall. The wall's the strongest thing on the field. Don't fight the strongest thing on the field. Ask the other question. Ask, why is the wall up?" And it lands. The way Mitsuki's clean versus soft landed, the way Suzuka's own crack her trust landed against Hebe, a whole locked door swinging open on a hinge I hadn't thought to check. "A wall that can't be broken," I say slowly, "still has to be raised. And it can't be raised all the time. You said the front tried siege magic on it, which means it went up in response to the siege, which means it's a thing she does, not a thing that's always on. It costs her something, attention, energy, something, and it protects whoever's inside it, which means someone has to be inside it," Suzuka says. "And the one thing a shield that protects the inside can't do is protect the outside. Sarah can't attack through her own wall if she could. They'd have won every fight at the front by turtling and jabbing, and they didn't, because a dome that keeps things out keeps her in. So the barrier's not the problem. The barrier's a fact. The question is, what makes Sarah drop it? I feel the shape of it now, the game logic axiom crystallizing, the one I've been circling since Mitsuki first said the word unbreakable. If you can't break a shield, make the enemy drop it themselves. She drops it, I say, when she thinks she doesn't need it, when the fight's won. When there's nothing left to defend against, or when there's something outside the wall she needs to reach that's worth more to her than the wall. I look at Suzuka. It's a healer's wall. Healers protect people. If Genya's in trouble, really in trouble, dying in trouble, and the wall is between her and him, she comes out. Every instinct she has as a healer, the whole reason she stands behind the wall in the first place, flips. The thing that keeps the wall up is the thing that brings it down. Protect Genya. "Now you sound like the rulebook again," Suzuka says with the ghost of approval. "Don't get excited. You found the hinge. You haven't found the plan. Because to make Sarah come out to save a dying Genya, you have to actually get Genya to the edge of dying, and Genya is a class above anyone you own, strong enough to kill one of us doing it. So your plan requires surviving the exact thing that kills you, long enough to look like you're losing, badly enough that a healer breaks the habit of a lifetime. She stands. You've turned an unwinnable fight into a merely lethal one. Congratulations, that's an improvement technically. She walks off, and I sit with the cut on my arm and the axiom in my head. And I know she's right on both counts. I've found the hinge, and finding the hinge just moved the problem, because now the plan runs directly through a general who could break one of my people in half. There's a piece missing. A big one. The part where I make Genya look like he's dying without letting him actually kill Hebe first. I don't have it yet. But I have the shape of the folder now, and the folder isn't empty anymore. It's got a hinge in it. That's more than anyone who's failed against Sarah ever had. Hebe takes the news that Genya's coming for her specifically about how I expect. Good, she says when I tell her, and there's a light in her eyes I haven't seen, not the old contempt, something hungrier and more focused. A general, a real one. He ran a whole wing of the front and then quit because it wasn't a challenge anymore, and he came here, to the arena, and he came looking for me. She's up now, pacing, fast. Do you understand what that means? Nobody's ever wanted to fight me as an equal. They want to survive me, or they want me to lose, or they want to use me. He wants to fight me. Full speed, full strength, no chore, no formality. Just to find out who's better. He's a class above you. I say because someone has to. Above all of us. Mitsuki's not exaggerating, he was the front for a while. If you fight him straight to find out who's better, you find out, and you might not survive finding out. I know. Hebe says, and stops pacing and looks at me, and there's something in it I haven't earned yet, but that she's decided to give me anyway. That's why I'm not going to fight him straight. 3 weeks ago I would have. 3 weeks ago I'd have raced him to find out who's faster, and I'd have lost, because he's a general and I'm a girl who was good at running, and I'd have died proud and stupid. She flexes her hands through one of her control patterns. You made my own legs lie to me, and it was the worst thing that's ever happened, and it's the best thing that's ever happened. I don't trust my body blind anymore. I trust it and I watch it. That's slower and it's better. She looks at me steadily. So I'm not fighting Genya to find out who's faster. I'm fighting him inside whatever plan you build, and when the moment comes, I'm going to be the fastest, most disciplined blade you've ever pointed. Because I finally understand the thing you've been saying since I lost to you. Speed's not the point. Speed's just a tool. The point is being the tool that lands at the one moment that matters. I look at her, the goddess of speed, who scorned the slow and the weak and everything I was, standing in a barracks telling me she's learned patience, and I file it under the folder I never expected to have, the one with the stew and the bread fight in it. When the moment comes, I say, it's going to run through you. The whole plan. I don't have all of it yet. But the piece that ends at the last exchange, the one after everything I set up that's going to be yours. You crack Genya's guard. Nobody else can. You're the only one fast enough to be in the right place the instant Sarah's wall comes down. Then build me that instant, Hebe says, and I'll be in it. Across the barracks, Ren looks up from where she's teaching Kamaki, of all things, the mechanics of smothering purgatory flame, a former enemy, teaching a former enemy how to survive the thing that used to be her whole identity, and she catches my eye and raises an eyebrow in the way that's become our whole private language. Figured it out? Halfway, I signal back with a tilt of my head. Liar, her eyebrow says. She's right. I've got a hinge and a finisher and a lethal hole in the middle where the plan should be. I've got a general I can't outstrength and a wall I can't break and a plan that requires making one look like it's killing me to make the other come down. But I've also got a team that stopped competing and started thinking, a speed goddess who learned to be patient, a veteran who remembered how to care, a samurai who chose her cause, and a flame executioner who fetches water and reads my face better than anyone ever has. If you can't break a shield, make the enemy drop it themselves. I lie awake most of that night, running the geometry of a fight I don't have all the pieces for, and somewhere near morning the missing middle starts to take shape, a losing script, a general staggered to the edge of a collapse he thinks is real, a healer who breaks the habit of a lifetime, and a heal that's too weak to matter use the one way a heal that weak could ever possibly matter. Not yet, not quite, but close. The gate's going to rise on the strongest thing I've ever fought, standing next to the one thing I've been told can't be beaten. Good, I think, and finally sleep. Nobody defends a locked door. I find the missing middle 2 nights before the fight, and it's ugly, and it's the kind of plan I can't tell the whole team because parts of it only work if they believe them. Here's the shape of the problem, laid out clean. Genya is a class above us. A straight exchange with him risks a death because a general's strength doesn't have the gentle setting the arena's non-lethal culture usually relies on. Sarah's barrier can't be broken by anything I own because everything I own is reduced. The hinge is that Sarah drops the wall to save a dying Genya. And the finisher is Hebe, the only one fast enough to be in the seam when the wall comes down. The part I couldn't find is how do I make Genya look like he's dying without Genya first killing one of us? And what do I actually do in the instant the wall drops, since my attacks are all too weak to finish a general even undefended? I find both answers in the same place I always find them, in the exact wording of my own gift, and in the thing everyone treats as its weakness. My reduced heal is useless as attrition. But a reduced heal, stacked with the 5th class buff logic I learned against Hebe combined effects, a sum instead of a single source, and cast not on myself, but on the one teammate positioned to end it, at the exact instant she needs to punch above her weight for a single blow. That's not a heal anymore. That's an amplifier. Sarah isn't the only one who can pour power into someone else. I can too. Weakly. Once. At the right moment. And the reason I can afford to spend my own body getting Genya to the edge, the reason the middle isn't suicide, is the thing I've been avoiding thinking about, which is that I'm going to have to take real hits from a general and survive them, and the only way to survive them is to make him not want to kill me. Which means the whole first half of the fight isn't about winning, it's about performance. I'm going to sell exhaustion, sell defeat, sell a team collapsing not to fool Genya exactly, but to fool Sarah, who watches from behind her wall and decides from the inside when the fight is won. I tell the team the parts they need. I tell Hebe she's the finisher and to trust the amplify when it comes. I tell Ren and Kamaki and Suzuka their jobs shape the ground, hold the tempo, coordinate the read. And I don't tell them the part where I'm going to let Genya hurt me badly enough that a healer believes I'm finished. Because if they know that's the plan, they'll try to protect me, and the protection will read as fight left in us, and Sarah won't come out. Mitsuki catches me the night before. She always does. You're going to do something stupid that looks smart, she says. Again. Yeah, I say. But I know it's stupid this time. That's different. Barely. She studies me. You're going to eat a general's fist to sell a corpse. Clean fighting, remember? Ruthless in the fight. What you're planning isn't ruthless. It's a gamble with your own ribs as the stake. It's the most ruthless thing in the plan, I say. I'm spending the one resource I own that Genya can't take from me, and Sarah can't heal against my willingness to lose worse than anyone thinks a person would. That's the whole edge. Everyone in this arena wins by not wanting to lose. I win by being willing to lose harder than the enemy can imagine, right up until the last exchange. I meet her eyes. You taught me clean. This is clean. I'm just the one paying the price this time instead of making the enemy pay it. Mitsuki is quiet a long moment. You've gotten better at this, she says finally, and it's not a compliment. It's an observation with something worried underneath it. That scares me more than when you were reckless. Don't die being right, copier. It's the worst way to go. The gate rises on the largest crowd I've seen. Word traveled the general who chose the sand, the undefeated wall, against the copier's throwaway team, and the tears are a solid wall of noise. Reika is in her box. She's always in her box now. She stopped pretending she wasn't watching me specifically weeks ago. Genya Asakura is exactly what a general who was once the front looks like. Huge, but not clumsy huge, his size sits on him easy. A big man who moves like a small one, and he's delighted. That's the thing nobody warned me about, that Mitsuki almost mentioned and didn't quite land. He's grinning across the sand at Hebe like a kid who got the exact present he asked for, booming out a greeting the whole arena can hear. The goddess of speed! He spreads his arms. I came a long way for you, little sprinter. They said you were the fastest thing under the sand, and I have been so bored at the front and so bored down here fighting people who fight to survive me. He plants his feet, and the enhancement comes online, and it's not like Hebe's subtle wrongness, it's a pressure I can feel from across the sand, a raw density of power that makes my mouth go dry. Fight me to find out who's better. No survival, no formality, just the two of us at the top of what we are. Beside him, Sarah raises her wall. I've been told about it, and I've tested a fraction of it, and I'm still not ready for the reality. A dome of pale light snaps up around Sarah, clean and silent and absolute. And I know the way you know a locked door is locked before you try the handle that nothing I own touches it. She stands inside it, small and calm, a young woman with a healer's stillness and eyes that are already sad, already braced, the eyes of someone who's watched a lot of people break themselves on that wall and takes no joy in it. Please yield if it gets bad, Sarah says, and she says it kindly and she means it. Genya doesn't want anyone to die, neither do I. Yield and we'll heal whatever we broke. There's no shame in it. There it is, I think. She decides when it's bad. She decides when it's over. The wall doesn't come down until she believes the fight is finished. the horn sounds. And I do the hardest thing I've ever done on the sand, which is start losing on purpose against a man who could kill me by accident. Genya goes for Hibby, and Hibby goes for Genya, and for about 10 seconds the arena gets the fight. It came for the goddess of speed and the general, full tilt, Hibby a blur, and Genya somehow keeping up with the blur, reading her, laughing the whole time. This is it, this is what I came for. And I let it happen, because Hibby's job right now isn't to win, it's to make Genya believe this is a real contest so he commits to it. And because a Hibby who's testing him full speed is a Hibby who's learning him, cataloging his patterns the way I catalog everything. Then Genya lands a hit, a real one. He gets a hand on Hibby mid-blur and redirects her into the sand. Not to hurt her, but to prove he can. And it drives the wind out of her, and I feel the whole team tense. Now the losing script starts. I have Ren shape the ground a wall of purgatory flame across a third of the sand, not to burn Genya, but to cut the space, to make it look like we're fortifying, defending, running scared. I have Kamaki and Suzuka close ranks around the staggered Hibby, protective, and I put myself out front, and I start throwing my weak copies at Genya. They do nothing. That's the point. A reduced version of his own power, thrown back at him, he swats it aside, laughing. That tickles, copier! A weak blade edge, a weak reach, all of it bouncing off a general who's barely trying. And to the crowd, to Sarah behind her wall, it reads exactly as it's supposed to. The copier's out of tricks, the throwaway team is out of tricks, they're just flailing now, the fight's turning. And Genya, delighted, starts pressing. He wades through Ren's flame purgatory. Flame clings, but a general's got the mass and speed to move through it before it feeds, exactly as I'd hoped, so it slows him and marks him but doesn't stop him. Ren pulls her attention off the flames clinging to him the moment he's through ordinary fire now, guttering out against his armor, because she needs that attention elsewhere for the plan, and a fire she's not feeding is just a fire. He comes for me, because I'm the one throwing the useless copies, because taking out the copier ends the team, and I let him hit me. The first blow, I half slip enough to turn a killing impact into a merely brutal one, a trick of angles I drilled with Kamaki, taking the force across my body instead of into it. It still folds me. It still cracks something. I feel a rib go, a bright wrongness in my side. I stay up, sell staggered, not finished. The second blow, I slip less well, because I have to sell that I'm slowing down, that I'm hurt, that the copier's clever tricks have run out, and now it's just a general beating a weak boy. It catches my shoulder and spins me down into the sand, and I taste blood, and the crowd makes the sound crowds make when the joke's punchline finally lands, 3 fights late. Yield, Genya says, and he's not gloating, he's genuinely offering, standing over me with real concern under the battle joy. Little copier, you've got no strength, we both know it. You fought clever, but clever's spent. Yield, I'll have Sarah mend you, no shame in it, you gave the sprinter a good team. And behind him, inside her dome, Sarah steps toward the edge of her wall, and her sad, kind eyes are on me, and I can see her deciding it's bad now. It's nearly over. The copier's finished. Soon I'll come out and heal them all, because that's what I do. Not yet. She's not out yet. The wall's still up. I need one more beat, one more turn of the screw. One thing that makes Sarah believe not just that I'm finished, but that Genya's finished too, that the whole fight is over, and there's nothing left to defend against. So I give her Genya on the edge. Hebe, I say, and it comes out through blood and a broken rib, and it's barely a word. But she hears it. She's been waiting for it. The whole plan running through her. Now. And Hebe, who's been playing staggered and cornered this whole time, who's been cataloging Genya for the entire fight, who learned patience the day her own legs betrayed her moves. Full speed, disciplined, the fastest, most controlled thing I've ever seen her do. She's not aiming to finish Genya, she can't. He's a class above her. She's aiming to stagger him, to hit him from the one angle he isn't watching because he's focused on the dying copier at his feet. And she catches him low and behind the knee with everything she has, and Genya Asakura, the front, the general, the wall's whole reason to be up, buckles. He goes down to one knee, roaring, more surprised than hurt, but down, visibly down, a general on his knee in the sand with the goddess of speed on his blind side and the copier bleeding at his feet, and to the whole arena, to the crowd, to Sarah watching from inside her wall, it reads as the picture I built the entire fight to paint. It's over. Both of them are finished. Genya's down and the copier's dying and the fight is won. And Sarah steps out of her wall. The dome drops not shattered, not broken, lowered by her own hand, because her general is down and hurt and her whole self as a healer flips the instant she believes the fight is done and someone needs mending. She rushes toward the kneeling Genya, hands already glowing, every instinct she's ever had carrying her out from behind, the only thing that's never failed her. For exactly the reason it was never going to fail her, she dropped it herself. And in that instant, Sarah outside the wall, Genya on his knee, the whole arena believing the fight's over, I stop dying. I don't heal myself. That was never the play. A reduced heal on my broken rib would do almost nothing and waste the one thing I've been saving. Instead, I drag myself up on my good arm, and I reach out toward Hebe, and I cast the stolen heal, the useless one, the fraction, the trickle, not to heal her, but to pour it into her, stacked with the last of the 5th-class buff I dosed in the tunnel, combined effects summing into something neither is alone. A reduced heal plus a middling buff, layered onto a fighter at the exact instant she needs to punch above her weight for a single blow. The sum isn't strong, but it doesn't need to be strong. It needs to be enough once to let Hebe, already the fastest, already positioned, already the only one who could ever be in this seam, crack the guard of a general who's down on one knee and off balance and doesn't believe the fight is still happening. Hebe, I say again, and it's the last of my breath. One blow. Now she's out. Now. Hebe crosses the space in a fraction of a heartbeat, amplified, buffed, healed above her limit for one instant. And she doesn't try to kill Genya. She does what I do. She finds the seam, the gap in a staggered general's guard, while his healer's outside the wall and his balance is gone and his whole attention is on the surprise of being down. She drives everything the sum gave her into that seam, one decisive strike, the finisher the entire fight was built to buy. And Genya Asakura, the front, the general, the wall's reason to exist, goes down flat into the sand. For a second, there's no sound at all. The arena has, 3 times now, watched the impossible happen. But this is the biggest impossible yet, and the silence is enormous. Then Genya starts laughing. Flat on his back in the sand, chest heaving, the general throws his head back and laughs, a huge booming sound that fills the whole silent arena, and it's not bitter, it's not the laugh of a broken man, it's pure, unfiltered joy. "You made me air!" he roars, still laughing, staring up at the ceiling. "Little copier! You made me, you sold it, all of it, you let me hit you, you let me think I'd won, you made my Sarah come out, you made me air." He sits up and he's grinning through it, and there are actual tears of laughter in his eyes. "Do you know how long since anyone made me air? Not lose. Make a mistake I didn't see coming." He looks at Hebe, then at me bleeding in the sand, then back. "I came here to find out who's better, and it's neither of us, is it? It's the boy who wasn't even fighting. It's the boy who was losing the whole time on purpose." Sarah is kneeling beside him, hands glowing, already mending the strike. And she looks at me with those sad, kind eyes, and there's something new in them, not defeat, understanding. "You never tried to break my wall," she says quietly. "Everyone tries to break my wall, you just made me not want it up." A pause. "That's never happened before." "Nobody breaks the wall," I manage. Blood and a broken rib, and the enormous grinning relief of a plan that didn't kill anyone. "So I didn't. I made you drop it. The wall was never the fight, Sarah. The fight was you." The horn sounds. The binding takes hold. And the arena, the whole packed roaring tier of it erupts, because a general who was the front and a wall that had never fallen just became the copier's 5th and 6th, bound by a plan built entirely on losing every exchange but the last. Genya Asakura climbs to his feet, healed, still grinning, and he claps a hand on my shoulder gently, for him, which nearly puts me back in the sand and says, bound to a mind. "Finally, I've served strength my whole life and it bored me to death. Point me at things, little copier. I want to see what you break next." He looks around at the team at Hebe, still catching her breath, at Ren and Kamaki and Suzuka closing in. This is a good team. This is a team that thinks. Sarah helps me up, hands already on my broken rib, warmth flooding the wrongness away, and she says softly, "You planned to get this hurt, didn't you? You planned to look like you were dying so I'd come out." "Yeah," I admit. "That's a terrible plan," she says. But she's smiling, a little. The sad healer's smile of someone who spent years being an unbreakable wall and just met the one person who understood she was a person behind it. "I'll heal you, but next time tell me you're not actually dying. It's cruel letting a healer watch." "Next time," I say, "you'll be on my side of the wall." And she is. 6 of them now. The library's nearly full. Up in her white and gold box, a silver-haired woman who priced me at nothing is standing very still, and I catch her eye across the whole screaming arena, bleeding and grinning and held up by the general who was the front. "Recheck your ledger," I don't say, because I've said it before and she's heard it, and this time I just hold her gaze and let the arena roar do the talking and watch her come at last to a decision. They come for me the morning after, and for once it's not the arena. 2 of Reika's own white and gold robes, not the dull armor of the arena guards, appear at the barracks door and tell me the High Priestess requests my presence. Requests, not summons, not orders. The word choice is deliberate and I file it, because a woman who priced me at nothing near 8 weeks ago and now uses the word requests has recalculated something. Genya wants to come along and break anyone who looks at me wrong. Ren wants to come along and set fire to anyone who looks at me wrong. I tell them both no, because I'm walking into the office of the most dangerous person in Soloria, and the correct move is to look like I don't need protection, even though I extremely do. Sarah mends the last of my rib on the way out. She knit the bone with her gift, but healing magic can't erase the ache, so she tells me not to twist for a few more days, and I file that too because pain is information, and I want to know exactly how much of me is still broken before I sit down across from Reika. They take me up. Not to the arena levels past them, up and up, out of the sand warren entirely, and into the theocracy proper, marble and stained glass, and the smell of incense instead of blood and hot iron. The first daylight I've seen since the summoning hall pours through high windows, and I have to stop for a second because I'd genuinely started to forget the sky was a thing. Reika's office is smaller than I expected and colder. She's at a desk covered in ledgers, actual ledgers, columns of figures, the machinery of a state at war, and she doesn't look up when I come in. Sit, she says. I sit. My rib complains. I don't let it show. For a while she keeps working, and I let her, because this is a test. How does the copier handle being ignored? Does he fidget? Does he bristle? Does he fill the silence? And the correct answer is to do what I did in a cell 3 days into this world, which is start collecting information. So I read the office, the ledgers, the map on the wall behind her, Soloria and Vielle, and a border drawn in what looks disturbingly like old bloodstains marking where the line has moved back and forth over decades. A war that eats and never finishes. You've cost me a great deal of trouble, Reika says finally, setting down her pen. She looks at me, and it's the appraising look from the summoning hall, except this time there's no discount pre-applied. This time she's actually looking. 8 weeks ago, near as I can reckon your kind's time without a sky, I appraised a gift I could have paid a garrison's wages for, and I called it a loss to be minimized, and I sent it to the Colosseum to generate what little coin it could before it died. A pause. It did not die. It won. It kept winning. It won in ways that shouldn't be possible, against opponents chosen specifically to end it, and it built a stable out of the arena's own champions, and now the whole underlevel whispers about a boy whose word is iron and whose worthless gift keeps toppling the strong. She folds her hands. I have made few appraisal errors in my career. You are the largest one. I dislike being wrong more than almost anything, so I have spent some weeks understanding exactly how wrong I was. And I have concluded that I was not wrong about your gift. You weren't, I agree. It is worthless, a fraction of everything, a copy of scraps. You appraised the gift correctly. Something flickers across her face, surprised that I'd concede it. Then how? You appraised the gift and thought you'd appraise the player, I say. Those are different things. The gift is worthless. I'm not. I lean back, carefully, minding the rib. You built a system that assumes the strongest wins. Everyone you've ever summoned, everyone in that arena, plays inside that assumption they try to be strong, and they win or lose on how strong they are. I don't play inside the assumption. I read the system and I find the place where the assumption breaks. That's not a gift. You can't summon it and you can't appraise it and you can't put a garrison's wages on it. It's just how I think. I hold her eyes. You didn't make an appraisal error. You made a category error. You thought you were buying a weapon. You bought a player. Reika is quiet for a long moment, and then she does something I don't expect. She almost smiles. Not warmth, recognition, the cold professional recognition of someone who's just heard a problem stated correctly. Yes, she says. That is exactly what I did. She stands, moves to the map, the border of bloodstains. So let me tell you why you're here, player, since you appreciate systems stated plainly. I'm going to tell you a true thing that could end me if it left this room, and I'm going to tell it to you because you're the only person I've met in years who might do something useful with it instead of something loud. I say nothing. Filing. The war with Vielle has lasted longer than either of us has been alive, Reika says. It does not end. It cannot end under the current arrangement, because too many powerful people in the theocracy profit from it not ending. The summoning is a fortune, and the summoning only justifies itself by the war, and the war only continues because we keep feeding it heroes. She traces the border. The strong gifts go to the front and die feeding a line that never moves. The weak gifts go to the Colosseum, and the Colosseum, she turns to face me, is where I have been quietly laundering the war's true cost. The arena's winnings, the wagers, the seat money, a river of coin, and I have been diverting it. Not for myself. To fund the parts of the war the throne refuses to fund honestly, because admitting what the war actually costs would collapse the whole justification for it. I have been keeping a lie solvent. The expendable hero law, the one that sent you underground to be minimized, exists because a system that eats people needs a category of people it's allowed to eat. You were in that category, so were hundreds before you. Most of them died. I sit with it, and the cold in the office makes more sense now. This is a confession, and confessions from people like Reika are never free. You're telling me the rot, I say slowly, which means you want something from me that requires me to know the rot exists. What? I told you. You're a player. Reika returns to the desk, sits, folds her hands. Here's the offer. The arena runs a grand tournament, the highest event, the one the whole theocracy watches, throne and priesthood and mob alike. Win it. Reach the top of the Colosseum, publicly, undeniably, in front of everyone who matters. And when you do, I will stand before the throne and denounce the summoning system as corrupt. I will use the weight of your victory, a boy called Worthless, who beat everyone, whose word is iron as the lever to force the abolition of the expendable hero law. No more categories of people the system is allowed to eat. That's what I'll spend your victory on, if you win it. I turn it over, and I don't answer right away, because the correct move when handed a shining offer is to find the trap before you accept, and there's obviously a trap. The only question is what shape. Why, I say. You've kept the lie solvent for years. You fed the eating machine. You made the category and you used it on me personally. Why do you suddenly want to break the thing you've been maintaining? Reika's jaw tightens, and for the first time something under the cold shows through. Something I recognize because I've seen it on Suzuka and heard it under Mitsuki's words, the specific exhaustion of a person who's been maintaining a system they stopped believing in. Because I am very good at keeping lies solvent, she says, and I have finally proven to myself that a lie kept solvent forever is just a slower way of losing. The border hasn't moved in a decade. The coin runs faster every year. The category eats more people every summoning. I have run this machine long enough to know it does not end in victory. It ends when it collapses under its own weight, and then everyone who profited from it burns, including me, and nothing is reformed. It's just rubble. She meets my eyes. You showed me something, player. You showed me that a system everyone believes is fixed can be broken by someone willing to read it honestly instead of playing along. I've been playing along my whole life. I'm tired of it. And you're the first lever I've seen that might actually move the throne instead of just moving coin from one column to another. It's a good speech. It might even be true. But I've been in this world long enough to know that true and safe are different categories, so I say the thing that's actually bothering me. Here's the trap I can see, I say. You're offering me a reform of a rigged system, delivered by the person who rigged it, contingent on me winning a tournament that the same rigged system controls. If I win, you get a boy Worthless turned champion to be the public face of your reform, which conveniently makes you the reformer instead of the launderer, rewrites your whole record, and costs you nothing but a law you've apparently decided is a liability anyway. And if I lose, my whole team changes hands in one match, and you're rid of the largest appraisal error of your career, and no one ever knew you had this conversation. I keep my voice even. You've built a bet where you win either way. That's not an offer. That's a system with the outcome pre-decided in your favor, wearing an offer's clothes. The office is very quiet. And then Reika does smile, fully this time. And it's the coldest and most genuine expression I've seen on her. Yes, she says. That's exactly what it is. I told you I dislike being wrong, so I built a bet I can't lose. She leans forward. But here's the part you haven't priced in, player, because you're used to being the only person in the room who reads the whole system. I don't care which way I win. Both outcomes are acceptable to me. Which means I have no reason to rig your tournament against you, and every reason to let it run clean because a clean victory makes a better lever than a suspicious one, and a clean defeat costs me nothing either way. You've correctly identified that I win regardless. What you've missed is that because I win regardless, this is the one offer in your entire time here that isn't a trap. I don't need to trap you. I've already won by making the offer. She spreads her hands. So, win the tournament and get the thing you actually want, the abolition of the law that condemned you and hundreds before you. Or don't, and lose your team. The only person who gets to decide which is you. That's the cleanest deal you'll ever be offered down here, and you can see it's clean precisely because it's rigged in my favor. A rigged bet has no reason to cheat. And she's right. That's the maddening thing. It's the tightest logic I've been handed since I got here, and it's tight because it's honest about being self-serving, and I've learned to trust honest self-interest over generous promises every single time. What's the tournament? I say, which is me accepting, and we both know it. The grand tournament fields the arena's absolute best, Reika says, satisfied, the deal closing. You've beaten strong fighters, champions, a general, an unbreakable wall. The tournament ends with the three who've never lost to anyone, the three queens. She watches my face. They aren't like the others. Ren toyed with rookies. Hebe scorned the slow. Genya sought a worthy fight. The queens embody the arena, at its purest and its cruelest, three undefeated champions who fight as one, who have never been beaten separately or together, and who represent everything the Colosseum is, the strong crushing the weak because the system says the strong win. A pause. They're the reason the expendable hero law feels natural to everyone who watches. Because the queens prove, every tournament, that strength is destiny. Beat them, and you don't just win a tournament, you disprove the thing the whole rotten system rests on. Nobody defends a locked door, I say, half to myself. What? Nothing, I stand, minding the rib. I accept, I'll win your tournament. And when I do, you stand before the throne and you end the law, in front of everyone, publicly. If you don't, I'll have a champion's platform and a story that travels, and I'll spend it telling the whole theocracy exactly what you've been laundering. Your rigged bet works both ways now. You keep your word, or I stop being a lever and start being a witness. Reika considers me for a long moment, and then inclines her head, a fraction. Iron word, she says. The underlevel wasn't exaggerating. Very well, player. Win, and I keep mine. She picks her pen back up, the audience ending. Go build whatever you're building. Beat the queens. Prove strength isn't destiny. A pause, without looking up. For what it's worth, and it's worth nothing, so take it as nothing, I'm glad my largest error was a boy who reads systems. It would have been embarrassing to be beaten by something stupid. You haven't been beaten yet, I say. You've been made useful. There's a difference. File it. I leave her office, and I walk back down through the marble and the incense and the last of the daylight, down into the sand warren, down to the barracks and the 6 people waiting there, and I feel the whole shape of the endgame folder finally fill in, the empty file I've carried since the first team match snapping shut around a plan. Because Reika handed me the last piece without knowing it. 3 undefeated queens who fight as one, who've never been beaten separately or together, who represent strength as destiny, a wall the arena built to prove the weak stay weak. And I've spent these weeks assembling the exact tool to break it. So, Suzuka says when I've told them all of it, the confession, the offer, the trap that isn't a trap, the queens. The rulebook made a deal with the woman who wrote the rulebook. The rulebook made a deal to burn the rulebook. Ren corrects. She's got the old grin on, the good one, the one aimed with me instead of at me. I like this plan. Setting fire to things is my whole personality. Komaki, who spent these weeks judging whether the cause is small, sets her jaw. A law that names people as things to be consumed, she says slowly. Ending it is not a small cause. I have watched. I have judged. She meets my eyes and, for the first time, bows not the self-punishing kneel of a bound servant, a warrior's bow, deliberate and chosen. The cause is worthy of a blade. I am yours until it is done, and I withdraw my reservation. Hebe flexes her hands through her control pattern, restless, hungry. 3 who've never lost, who fight as one. Her eyes are bright. You already know how to beat them. I can see it on your face. You've had that face since you walked in. I've had a shape since I walked in. I say. Not a plan, a shape, and it's a shape I've been building toward since the first team match without knowing it. I look around at the 6 of them, flame and speed and blade and field sense and raw power, and an unbreakable wall, 6 real gifts, and more importantly, 6 weak stolen copies of them living in me now, a library nearly complete. The queens have never lost because everyone fights them the way everyone's fought everything down here, as individuals, strength against strength. And they win because they're the strongest and they fight as one. So how do you beat 3 who fight as one? Sarah asks softly. I think about 6 weak skills, each useless alone, and the exact order you'd fire them in so each one covers the last one's gap, and a combo that doesn't care how strong its pieces are because it only cares about timing, and timing is a rule, and rules are mine. You don't beat them with something stronger, I say. You beat them with something they can't imagine, because it can only be built out of weakness. 6 weak skills, woven together so tight that breaking any one of them just triggers the next. I feel the folder click shut, complete at last. We've got until the tournament. Every argument you six have ever had, every clash over who's the ace, every ceasefire, I need all of it. Because the thing that's going to beat the three queens is the six of you finally fighting as more than one, and I'm going to teach you how. The idea is simple to say and almost impossible to build, which is how I know it's the right one. 6 weak skills. I tell them, the morning we start drilling. We've got the practice yard to ourselves, a stable with a tournament berth gets privileges, and one of them is unmonitored training time. That's what I bring. Not one of them wins a fight. A fraction of Ren's flame is a candle. A fraction of Hibby's speed is a jog. A fraction of Sarah's barrier is a bedsheet. A fraction of Komaki's edge, Suzuka's field red, Genya's power, each one, alone, is a joke. That's what the whole world laughed at in the summoning hall, and they were right to. I let it sit. And that's exactly why it works. Because nobody defends against a joke. Suzuka, arms crossed, watching like she always watches. You're going to chain them. I'm going to chain them. I crouch and start drawing in the sand, which is how I think best geometry, made visible. Here's the principle. Every one of my copies is weak, which means every one of them is easy to break. If I open with the flame, an opponent breaks the flame. If I lead with the speed, they break the speed. Any single scrap I throw, a champion counters, because a champion counters strong versions of these skills all the time and mine are weaker. I draw a line, then a branch off it, then another. But what if breaking the first skill is what triggers the second? What if the flame isn't meant to burn, it's meant to be put out, and the act of putting it out is the opening for the speed? And the speed isn't meant to land, it's meant to be dodged, and the dodge walks them into the blade? Each skill is a question the enemy answers correctly, and every correct answer is the setup for the next question. You can't break the chain by breaking a link, because breaking a link is the chain working. There's a silence while 6 fighters look at a line drawing in the sand. That's insane, Hebe says. But she says it the way she said you beat me on a theory, offended and fascinated in equal measure. It's the opposite of insane. I say, it's the most disciplined thing I've ever tried to build. Insane would be hoping 6 weak things add up to one strong thing. They don't. 6 weak things stay 6 weak things forever, I stand. But 6 weak things in the right order, at the right times, aren't adding up to strength. They're adding up to a shape the enemy can't be in the right place for. That's not power. That's timing. And timing is a rule, and rules are yours, Ren finishes, rolling her eyes. You've said it 40 times. It's true 40 times. Here's the part I don't say out loud yet, because they're not ready to hear it. The reason this can only be built now, with these 6 specifically, is that I need both halves. I need the real gifts, Ren's actual flame, Hibby's actual speed, all 6 of them at full strength on the sand fighting alongside me, and I need my 6 weak copies of those same gifts. Because the copies are mine to fire on my own timing, from my own body, in the seams where I can't get a teammate. The real gifts do the heavy work. The weak copies do the connective work, the little off-tempo interruptions, the fractional flames and half dodges that don't win exchanges but redirect them, that turn the enemy's correct answer into the wrong place to be standing. 2 layers, 6 fighters and 6 shadows of those fighters living in me. I've been building the library for 8 weeks. Now I find out if a library can fight. We drill, and it goes badly, and I'm glad it goes badly, because a plan that drills perfectly on the first day is a plan that hasn't met its real problems yet. The first problem is that my 6 people spent 8 weeks learning to fight as a team, Ren shaping ground, Hibby setting tempo, the trap and spring formula that's won us every match. And what I'm asking now is different and harder. I'm not asking them to be a team. I'm asking them to be instruments, each one hitting a precise beat in a sequence, where being early or late by a fraction breaks everything. The second problem is worse, and it's the one Mitsuki warned me about back when the team was 2 fighters who couldn't share a room. Their rivalries. You're rushing me, Hebe snaps at Ren on the 3rd day, after the chain collapses for the 10th time. Your wall's supposed to be up before I cross, and it's late, so I'm crossing into open ground and the reed falls apart. My flame grows at the speed it grows, Ren snaps back, which you'd know if you understood anything about fire instead of just running through it. Both of you stop. I say, and they stop, and I stand there in the collapsed chain and I understand, suddenly, the thing I've been missing. I've been trying to eliminate the friction between them, smooth it out, make them fit together cleanly, and that's wrong. That's the mistake. No, I say slowly to myself as much as to them. Don't fix it. Ren, your flame's late. How late? Ren, still glaring at Hebe. Half a beat, it's fire, it doesn't grow on command. Half a beat. Every time? Yes, consistently. It's the same flame every time. Hebe. You cross half a beat early? Every time? Hebe's jaw works. I cross when I'm ready. I'm fast. I'm always half a beat ahead, and there it is. The thing I've been trying to sand away is consistent. Ren is always half a beat slow because that's how fire grows. Hebe is always half a beat fast because that's what speed does to a person. Their friction isn't noise. It's signal. It's a rhythm, and it's the same rhythm every single time, and you don't fix a consistent offset, you build around it. You're both perfect. I say, don't change anything. Ren, stay half a beat slow. Hebe, stay half a beat early. The chain isn't collapsing because you're out of sync. It's collapsing because I wrote it assuming you'd be in sync, and you're not, and you never will be, because you're a fire and a sprinter, and those don't share a clock. I'm already redrawing it in my head, the geometry rearranging around the offset. So the chain runs on your clock, not mine. Hebe crosses early good. That's when my weak flame copy goes down, to fill the ground your wall hasn't grown into yet, Ren. Then Ren's real wall catches up half a beat later and seals it. The gap between you two isn't a flaw, it's a slot, and I fill the slot with a copy. I watch it land on both their faces at once, the specific pleasure of being told your worst friction is actually load-bearing. So the fight I keep getting into with the campfire, Hebe says slowly, is the timing engine of the whole combo, I say. Yeah, every argument you two have ever had is you two discovering over and over that your clocks don't match. I just spent 8 weeks trying to make them match. They're not supposed to match. They're supposed to be two different clocks that I read against each other. Ren starts laughing. Actually laughing, the flame executioner, head thrown back. We've been building your combo since the day we met, and we thought we were just fighting. You were just fighting, I say. That's how the best combos get built. Nobody designs friction that good on purpose. From there it comes together, but it comes together the hard way, and the hard way takes every remaining day we have. Suzuka turns out to be the piece that makes it possible. Because a 6-link chain running on 6 different clocks needs someone reading it live who isn't me, I'll be too busy firing my own weak copies in the seams to also conduct the whole orchestra. So Suzuka becomes the conductor. She reads the fight in real time the way I read it in advance, and she calls the beats, not the plan, the timing, the now, hold, now. That keeps 6 instruments locked to each other's mismatched clocks. I build the sequence. She runs it live. It's the exact division of labor I've needed since I realized I plan brilliantly and adapt slowly. Komaki's role is the anchor. Her blade is the finishing note of the chain, the strike everything else exists to set up, but more than that, her rigid discipline is the metronome the chaos organizes around. Ren runs slow, and Hebe runs fast, and Genya runs huge, and Komaki in the middle of it is exactly, precisely on the beat every single time, because her whole self is a code of precision. She's the fixed point. The others drift around her, and she never drifts. Genya's the hardest to fit, because Genya is raw power, and the whole point of the chain is that it's built from weakness. A general's full-strength blow doesn't need to be part of a subtle 6-link combo. It just breaks things. So I give him the one job raw power is perfect for in a chain of scraps. He's the threat. His presence forces the enemy to respect a real, class-above danger, which means every time the queens have to account for Genya, they can't spend that attention accounting for the weak stuff, and the weak stuff is where the actual chain lives. Genya's power is a decoy that happens to also hit like a general if they ignore it. He loves this. I'm the big loud thing that makes them look the wrong way, he booms, delighted. I've been the big loud thing my whole life, and finally someone's using it on purpose. Sarah's the tempo holder. Her barrier, the unbreakable wall, isn't for defense in the chain, it's for control. A wall that snaps up for half a beat doesn't protect anyone. It stops the enemy from being somewhere, forces them onto the beat I need them on, buys the fractional pause that lets a slow-growing flame catch up to an early crossing sprinter. She spent years using the wall to keep things out. Now she uses it to keep the tempo in. It's strange, she says quietly, after the first time it works. For years, the wall was the only thing between me and losing people. Now it's just a beat in a song. She looks almost lighter for it. And me, I'm the connective tissue. 6 weak copies, fired from the seams, filling the slots between everyone's mismatched clocks. A fractional flame here, a half dodge there, a scrap of hardened air, a trickle of amplify. None of it wins anything, all of it redirects. I'm not a fighter in the chain. I'm the thing that turns 6 fighters and their friction into a single shape. The night before the tournament, we run it clean for the first time. Start to finish, 6 links, 6 clocks, Suzuka conducting, everyone hitting their mismatched beats, and it works. A shape unfolds across the practice yard that no single one of us could produce, and that none of us, watching it, fully saw coming even though we built it. Ren's wall and Hibby's crossing and my flame copy in the slot, and Sarah's tempo wall and Jenya's threat and Kamaki's blade landing on the exact beat, and it's not strong, none of it's strong, and it doesn't matter because it's not trying to be strong. We stand in the yard afterward, all 7 of us, breathing hard, and nobody says anything for a while. We're going to win, Hebe says finally. Not a boast. Almost surprised. We're actually going to win. We're going to try, I correct, because overconfidence is a hole in the guard. The queens have never lost. They fight as one. They've seen every strong thing this arena has and beaten it. I'm betting they've never seen something built out of weakness, because why would anyone build that? But it's a bet. It could be wrong. It's not wrong, Suzuka says quietly. She's been quiet all evening, the conductor, watching the thing she helped build. I've been down here longer than anyone alive knows. I've watched 1,000 fights. I stopped caring years ago because it was always the same fight, the strong crushing the weak, over and over, the arena proving its one point forever. She looks around the yard. I've never seen this. Nobody has. You didn't build a stronger version of the thing that always wins. You built a different thing. I don't know if it beats the queens, but I know it's the first genuinely new thing I've seen down here in a decade, and I remembered why I used to care, and that's worth whatever happens tomorrow. She almost smiles. So thank you, rulebook, for the caring, if not the winning. That night, we sit on the empty arena. Not the barracks. The actual sand, the fighting floor under the open ceiling, and the first stars I've seen in 8 weeks. Getting up here after hours is against a dozen rules, but Genya knows a guard he used to command at the front, and the guard, it turns out, would rather look the other way than tell a general no. So we sit on the pale sand where I nearly died 3 times and won 4, all 7 of us in a loose ring, passing around a skin of the cheap wine Ren bought with tournament berth money. Nobody drills, nobody plans. It's the last dish, the breath before the plunge, and I've learned enough now to know you don't spend it working. I want to say something stupid, I say, and I want you to let me say it without Ren making the eyebrow face. No promises, Ren says, making the eyebrow face. 8 weeks ago, I got dropped into a summoning hall and a whole room of priests laughed at me, I say, looking up at the stars I'd started to forget existed. I rolled the worst gift ever recorded. The most powerful person in Soloria appraised me at less than nothing and sent me underground to generate a little coin before I died. That was the whole plan for my life. Die useful, minimize the loss. I passed the wine. I was a corpse in waiting. That's what I was, the day I met each of you. Every one of you was stronger than me. Every one of you beat me on paper before we ever fought, and every one of you is sitting on this sand with me now. Silence. The stars, the distant sound of the sleeping city above. I used to file everything. I go on. People too. I called you all assets in my head for weeks because assets don't hurt when you lose them. Ren, I called you an asset. Hebe, all of you. Because I was still a corpse in waiting, and corpses don't get to have people, they only get to have inventory. I take the wine back, drink, pass it on. I was wrong. I was wrong about the one thing I'm supposed to be good at, which is reading what a thing actually is. You're not inventory. You never were. I read it wrong for weeks, and I'm reading it right now, out loud, once, so you know I know. For a long moment nobody says anything, and it's the kind of silence that's full instead of empty. And then Ren, of all people, the flame executioner who laughed at me across this same sand 8 weeks ago, reaches over and shoves my shoulder, hard, nearly putting me on my back in the sand. Okay, that's enough, she says, and her voice is rough in a way that isn't the wine. You're going to make Kamaki cry and then she'll deny it and we'll be here all night. You said your stupid thing. It was a good stupid thing. Now shut up. She takes the wine, drinks, and looks at me over the skin, and the grin she gives me is the good one. The one that's been aimed with me instead of at me since a room with a pot of stew. You were a corpse in waiting who beat all of us with a candle and a plan. Tomorrow you beat 3 queens who've never lost, in front of the whole rotten theocracy, and you burn down the law that called you a loss to minimize. She shoves the wine into my hands. So shut up about being a corpse. Corpses don't get families. Drink, and then shut up, and then win. I look around the ring, Hebe already half laughing at Ren, Kamaki pretending very hard that her eyes aren't wet, Suzuka's quiet almost smile, Genya beaming like the whole sky belongs to him, Sarah watching all of us with a healer's soft attention. Yeah, I say, and drink and pass it on. Okay, shut up and win. Above us, the stars turn, and tomorrow the gate rises on the three queens and the top of the whole Colosseum. And for tonight, I sit on the sand where I started as a thing to be thrown away, surrounded by the family I built out of the people the world threw away with me, and I let myself have the whole night. We drink. We needle each other. Kamaki denies crying. Hebe steals the wine at superhuman speed, and Ren sets the skin on fire, and Genya's laugh rolls up into the stars. Tomorrow I'll be the rulebook again. Tonight I'm just a boy on the sand with his family, the night before the last fight. The grand tournament isn't one gate. It's a whole day. We fight through the bracket from morning on team after team, the arena's best, the champions who never made it into my library because I never had to beat them. And we win them, one after another, and we win them fast, because the chain isn't just for the queens. The chain works on everyone, and after 8 weeks of building it, running it against ordinary champions is almost embarrassing. Ren shapes, Hebe crosses, Suzuka conducts, Kamaki lands the note, and I fill the slots with scraps, and teams that have won dozens of matches fall apart against a shape they can't find a place to stand in. By the time the sun's low and gold through the high arches, we've won 6 matches and lost nothing, and the crowd, the whole theocracy, throne box and priest tiers and packed mob, everyone Reika promised would be watching has gone from curious to feverish. The copier's throwaway team, the worthless gift, cutting through the arena's best without a single one of us seriously hurt. Sarah's barely had to heal anyone all day. That's the sign the chain is working. We're not winning by surviving. We're winning by not getting hit. And then the last gate. They announce the three queens the way you announce weather, or a law of physics not presenting. But simply stating, because in the Colosseum, the queens aren't competitors, they're the fixed point the whole tournament orbits. Undefeated. Never beaten apart, never beaten together. The proof, every year, that the strong win and the weak lose and the expendable hero law is just nature written down. They walk onto the sand, and I read them, because reading is the only thing I've ever been better at than anyone, and what I read makes my mouth go dry. The first queen is tall and armored and carries a war hammer she holds like it weighs nothing. Raw power, Genya's category, maybe past it. The second is lithe and unarmed and moves with the loose economy of someone faster than she has any right to be. Hebe's category, and I don't like that she moves cleaner than Hebe. The third carries nothing and wears no armor and simply stands, and I can't read her gift at all, which is worse than reading a terrifying one, because a gift I can't read is a gift I can't plan against. They don't taunt, they don't work the crowd. They stand in a loose triangle in the center of the sand and wait, and the waiting is worse than any taunt, because it's the patience of 3 fighters who have genuinely never needed to hurry. Suzuka, I say quietly as the 7 of us take the far side of the sand. Talk to me. What do you see? I see why they've never lost, Suzuka says, and her voice is flat and careful, the conductor's voice. They're not 3 fighters. Look at the triangle. They're never all facing the same way. Power Queen covers the front, Speed Queen covers the flanks, and the third one? She pauses. The third one covers time. I don't know her gift, but I know her job. She's the one who fixes whatever the other 2 miss. 3 fighters who fight as one, and the one they fight as has no blind side and no bad beat. A pause. Utah. They've seen every strong thing. If we run the chain the way we ran it all day, they'll break it, because they can cover every angle, and they're fast enough and strong enough to punish any single link. I know, I say. You know? I've known since Reika described them. Because I have. Because a triangle with no blind side is exactly the enemy the chain was built for, and I've been holding that back from the team all week for the same reason I hold everything back. A plan only some people know is a plan the enemy can't read off their faces. We run the chain wrong on purpose first, trust me. Conduct what I call even when it looks like a mistake. The horn sounds. And I do the thing I've done in every fight since the summoning hall, which is throw away the first exchanges on purpose. We open the chain the way we've run it all day. Ren shapes the ground, Hebe crosses, Komaki drives for the finishing note. The standard opening, the one that's beaten 6 teams today, the queens shatter it in about 4 seconds. Power Queen's hammer comes down where Ren's wall is growing and simply cancels it, a wave of force that snuffs purgatory flame before it can feed. Speed Queen is on Hebe's crossing angle before Hebe's committed, matching her, beating her, forcing Hebe to abort. And the third queen, the one I can't read, does something to Komaki's finishing strike. A subtle wrongness in the air, and Komaki's blade lands half a beat late on nothing, exactly the kind of fractional error that shouldn't happen to a fighter whose whole self is precision. The chain collapses. Genya's threat gets ignored because the third queen simply accounts for it, folding his raw power into her time read like it's just another variable. Sarah's tempo wall goes up and Power Queen shrugs at it, unbothered, because a wall that stops you from being somewhere only matters if you needed to be somewhere, and the queens never need to be anywhere they aren't already. The crowd roars. This is the fight they came for. The copier's clever shape running into 3 fighters who've broken clever shapes for years. We stagger back. Hibby's furious, Ren's flame guttering, Kamaki shaken by a missed beat she doesn't understand. They read it, Suzuka says, low and tight. They read the whole chain in one pass. Utah, they're going to do that every time now. They filed it. Good, I say. That's what I needed. Suzuka knew beats, the chain we built, the real one. Because here's the thing I held back from everyone, the thing that's been the actual plan since the practice yard. The chain we drilled all week, the one that beat 6 teams today, was never the real chain. It was the bait chain, strong enough to look like my best work, simple enough for a fighter who reads combos to read it in one pass. Built specifically so the queens would break it confidently and file it as the copier's trick, and then commit, hard, to countering it a second time, because that's what fighters who've never lost do. They find your pattern, and they punish it forever. The real chain is the same 6 skills, different order, different clocks. And every link is positioned to fire in the gap the queens open when they counter the bait chain. Run it, I say, and this time I'm in it. We open again, and it looks to the queens like the copier making the same mistake twice out of desperation. Ren shapes the ground. Hibby moves to cross, Kamaki drives for the note, the same opening. And the queens do exactly what fighters who've filed a pattern do. They counter it exactly the same way, confidently, because it worked, because they've seen this shape and beaten it. Power Queen's hammer comes down to cancel Ren's wall, and that's the first gap. Because canceling a wall means committing the hammer to a spot, and a committed hammer is a hammer that isn't covering the front for half a beat. Genya's half a beat, the general's whole reason to be on the sand. Suzuka calls it Genya now. And Genya doesn't attack Power Queen, he occupies the front she just left, a class above threat standing exactly where she can't cover, forcing Speed Queen to peel off Hibby to account for him. Which is the second gap, because Speed Queen peeling off Hibby means Hibby's crossing angle is suddenly open, the angle that got shut down the first time. Suzuka. Hibby cross, early. And Hibby crosses half a beat early. Her natural clock, the offset I stopped trying to fix, and I fire my weak flame copy into the slot her early crossing opens. A fractional wall of purgatory flame that doesn't burn anyone but fills the ground. Ren's real wall hasn't grown into yet, and then Ren's real wall catches up, half a beat slow, her natural clock, and seals it. The queens are still countering the bait chain. They're a full beat behind, because they committed to the pattern they filed, and the real chain is unfolding in the gaps their commitment created. The third queen, the one I can't read, but the one Suzuka read the job of, and a job is enough to plan against, starts to correct. I feel it more than see it. The subtle wrongness in the air reaching for the chain the way it reached for Kamaki's blade. She's the danger. She's the one who fixes what the other two miss, and she's realizing, a beat late, that there's a second chain running under the first. So I spend the thing I've been saving. Suzuka Sara, the wall on the third queen, now. Sarah's barrier snaps up not to protect us, not to control ground, but around the third queen herself, a half-beat cage. It can't hold her, it's a fraction of a real barrier, and she's a champion who's never lost, but it doesn't need to hold her. It needs to make her spend half a beat inside it, unable to reach out and correct the chain, because a wall that keeps things out, keeps things in, and I learned that from beating Sarah herself. The one skill in my library that can neutralize the queen who covers time is the wall used exactly the way I used it against the woman who owns the strong version, now sitting in my corner. Half a beat, the third queen is boxed, and in that half a beat, the chain reaches Kamaki. Kamaki, the note, now. And this is the whole fight, the whole 8 weeks, the whole thing I built out of scraps and friction, and a family of people the world threw away. Because Kamaki's finishing strike missed the first time, landed half a beat late on nothing, punished by the third queen's time gift. But the third queen is boxed now, unable to reach the beat, and every other queen is a full beat behind countering the bait chain, and the gaps have all opened in sequence, each one triggered by the enemy correctly breaking the link before it. I amplify Kamaki. The trickle heal, the stolen support, poured into her at the instant she needs to punch above her weight for a single blow, the same move that cracked Genya's guard, the same principle, a sum instead of a source. Kamaki, the metronome, the fixed point, precise as scripture, drives her blade into the seam that 6 weak skills and 6 mismatched clocks and 1 boxed queen have opened in a triangle that was supposed to have no seams. The blade lands on the beat. The first queen, Power Queen, Hammer, still committed to canceling a wall that isn't the real threat, takes the note dead center in the gap her own confident counter opened, and she folds, driven down into the sand, out of the fight. The triangle breaks, and a triangle that's never been beaten separately, once it's a triangle no longer, is just two fighters who suddenly have blind sides, fighting a shape that was built for exactly this moment. Speed Queen, exposed by Genya occupying her front, gets caught by Hebe, not outraced, never outraced, but out-timed, Hebe arriving at the seam Genya opened, disciplined and patient, and the fastest blade I've ever pointed. And the third queen, breaking free of Sarah's half-beat box a heartbeat too late, turns to correct a fight that's already gone, and finds the whole chain converging on her at once, 6 weak skills and 6 real fighters folding inward, a shape she can't be in the right place for because there's no right place left. She yields. Because she covers time, and she can read, better than anyone on the sand, that the time to win this fight passed 2 beats ago, in the gap she spent boxed inside a bedsheet of a wall. The horn sounds, and the Colosseum, the whole theocracy, throne and priests and mob, every person Reka promised would be watching goes utterly, completely silent. 3 queens, undefeated, never beaten apart, never beaten together, down. Beaten by a triangle that turned out to have seams because the seams were built into how confidently it covered them. Beaten by a boy with the worst gift ever recorded and 6 weak copies of Stronger People's Power, and a family that spent 8 weeks discovering their own friction was load-bearing. The silence holds for 1 full second. 2. The length of a whole theocracy, recalculating a thing it believed was a law of nature. And then the sound that comes down is not the roar of a crowd cheering a favorite. It's something bigger and raw, the noise thousands of people make when the one thing they were most certain of breaks in front of them all at once, because if the queens can fall, if strength isn't destiny, if the weakest gift in the world can top the whole Colosseum, then the thing the arena existed to prove is a lie, and everyone in the tiers feels the lie collapse in the same second. I stand in the middle of the sand where I started as a corpse in waiting, bruised but not broken, and I look at my family. Ren, flame guttering out, grinning the good grin. Hebe, breathing hard, disciplined and triumphant. Kamaki, blade lowered, weeping openly now and not denying it. Suzuka, the conductor, with an expression I've never seen on her, the look of someone who stopped caring a decade ago and just remembered, all the way, why she used to. Genya, arms raised, roaring joy up into the open ceiling. Sarah, hands already reaching for the fallen queens, because she's a healer and the fight's over, and that's simply what she does. We didn't win by being stronger. We were never stronger. We won by being a different thing entirely, a thing that could only be built out of weakness, a thing the arena's whole logic couldn't account for, because the arena's whole logic was built by strong people who never check their game for exploits. Nobody defends a locked door. I look up, past the collapsing roar, to the throne box where the whole theocracy sits, and to the white and gold box beside it where a silver-haired woman is on her feet, watching me, and I know that she's watching her rigged bet come in on the winning side she didn't rig, watching the lever she needed handed to her by a boy she once called a loss to minimize. I hold her gaze across the whole screaming arena. Your turn, I don't say. I won it. Now you keep your word. Reka inclines her head a fraction, the same fraction as in her office, and turns toward the throne. And I stand on the sand at the top of the Colosseum, surrounded by my family, the worst gift in the world in a body that's still weak and always will be. And I understand that I've finally done it. I've reached the top of the thing that was built to grind me into coin. I'm not the underdog anymore. I read this whole rotten system, front to back, and I broke it open, and now I stand above it. The gate's not rising on anything else. There's nothing above this. I won. Reka keeps her word 3 days later, in front of the throne, and I'm there to watch her do it, because I've learned that you don't trust a promise you can't witness being kept. The throne room is everything the summoning hall was, and more: higher windows, colder marble, a raised dais with the king of Soloria on it, flanked by the priesthood in their crimson and gold. The same robes that laughed at me 8 weeks ago, some of the same faces even. I've gotten good at faces. They don't laugh now. They look at me the way you look at a variable you can't solve for, standing at the back of the hall in the plain clothes of a gladiator with 6 champions arranged behind me, like a sentence with a period on the end. Reka stands before the throne, and she doesn't soften it. That's the thing I'll remember. She could have made it gentle, made it a proposal, made it a thing the throne could dismiss. Instead, she lays it out the way she laid out her offer to me, cold, plain, and rigged so it can't lose. The Colosseum, she says to the king and the whole assembled priesthood, was built on a law of nature. The strong win, the weak lose. The expendable hero law rests on this that some summoned gifts are worth the front and some are worth only the sand, and the sand is where the weak go to generate coin before they die usefully. She lets it sit. 3 days ago, the weakest gift ever recorded topped the entire Colosseum, beat the 3 queens, beat every champion the arena could field, in front of every one of you. A pause, precise as a blade. The law of nature the summoning system rests on is false. It has been demonstrated false publicly, before the throne and the mob alike. And a state cannot base a law on a premise the whole theocracy just watched break. The king says something about tradition, about the war, about the cost. Reka answers all of it, and I realize, watching, that she's not persuading, she's foreclosing. She's built this the way she builds everything, so that the only outcomes are the ones she wants, and a collapse that costs everyone, including the king, more than agreeing does. She doesn't need them to believe her. She needs them to see that fighting her costs more than yielding, and she's arranged it so it does. And I understand, finally and fully, why her offer in that office was clean. She really doesn't care how she wins. She built a bet she can't lose, and I was one path through it, and now that I've come in on the winning side, she's spending the win exactly as promised, not out of conversion, not out of a change of heart, but because a woman who spent her life keeping lies solvent decided that this particular truth was more solvent than the lie, and moved her weight to it with the same cold competence she brought to everything else. The expendable hero law is abolished. It takes an afternoon of maneuvering I mostly don't follow, but the shape of it is simple. No more category of summoned people the system is allowed to eat. No more sorting heroes into worth the front and worth only the sand. The ones already down in the arena aren't fresh property to be spent existing. Arena debts remain valid contracts under arena law, but the state stops creating new expendable heroes to feed into them. Hundreds who would have followed me down into the dark over the coming years now won't. I catch Rika afterward, in a corridor of high windows in the last daylight, and she looks tired in a way she didn't let show in the throne room. "You kept your word," I say. "I keep my bets," she corrects. The word was incidental. But she looks at me for a moment longer than the correction needs, and something almost human passes under the cold. "You know what you've actually done, player? You didn't just win a tournament and cash in a favor. You made me look at the machine I've been running for 15 years and admit that I stopped believing in it a decade ago and kept running it anyway because it was easier than stopping." A pause. "I've been the launderer so long I forgot there was a version of me that started out wanting to fix things, before I learned fixing was harder than laundering." "You reminded me that version existed." She turns to go, then stops. "It's not gratitude. Gratitude is worth nothing. Call it an appraisal correction. I priced you at less than nothing." The correct price, it turns out, was a reform I couldn't have forced alone. She inclines her head, the last fraction. "Go build whatever you're building, player. I have a war to make honest, which is going to take the rest of my life, and I'd rather spend it on that than on keeping a lie solvent. You gave me that. File it however you like." She walks off into the daylight, and I file it under a folder I didn't have 8 weeks ago, the one where the person who condemned me became, without either of us quite intending it, the person who fixed the thing that condemned me. The binding, it turns out, has an end. I hadn't thought about it much. I'd been thinking about the tournament, the queens, the law, but the arena's binding was always a debt, and debts get paid, and a team that just topped the Colosseum has generated enough coin and glory to clear 6 defeats several times over. The arena lawkeeper works it out in a ledger, the same board clerk who logged my first purse, and one morning he tells me, flatly, that my 6 are free. Debts paid. The leash, the thing Ren said she could feel like a collar she couldn't chew through, gone. I tell them in the barracks, all 6 at once, because they should hear it together. "You're free," I say. "The binding's paid off. All of you. You're not servants. You're not bound. You can walk out of here today and never take an order from me again. I mean it, and I make sure they can hear that I mean it. That's not me being generous. It's just the ledger. You won your own freedom in that tournament. I'm just the one telling you." There's a silence. And then Hebe, the goddess of speed who scorned the weak, says, "That's the stupidest thing you've ever said, and you say a lot of stupid things," and doesn't move toward the door. "I fetched water for you when I didn't have to," Ren says, examining her nails. "You think a piece of paper changes that? I stay because I stay. The leash was never why I was here. It stopped being why weeks ago, and you know it." Kamaki bows the warrior's bow, chosen, deliberate. "The cause is not finished," she says. "The law is ended, but the machine that made it turns still. My blade chose its cause. Freedom does not unchoose it." Jenya just laughs, huge and delighted. "Free? To do what? Go back to the front and be bored?" Little copier, I served strength my whole life, and it was a grave with good pay. You're the first thing that's made me heir in years. I'm not leaving. Point me at things. Sarah's already shaking her head before I finish, her healer's soft certainty. I spent years behind a wall keeping people out because I'd lost too many to let anyone in. You made me drop the wall. I'm not going to go find another one to stand behind. And Suzuka, the veteran who threw a fight to be inside something that worked, who stopped caring a decade ago and remembered, says simply, I've been free before. Free down here means owning people or dying alone. This is better. I stay. I stand there in the barracks and I don't have a file for what's in my chest, so I stop trying to file it, which is new for me, and just let it be what it is. Okay, I say, and my voice isn't quite steady, which Ren will absolutely mock me for later. Then we're not a stable anymore. No binding, no debts, no servants. I look at the 6 of them. We're just this, whatever this is. A family, Sarah offers gently. You said it yourself, on the sand the night before. You said it out loud so we'd know you knew. Yeah, I admit. That. Mitsuki finds me last, which is how it's always been, and I go to find her too, because there's a whole folder marked later with her name on it, and I've decided it's finally later. She's in the old holding block where I first met her, sitting cross-legged in the straw like she owns it, and I realize I've never once seen her fight, never seen her leave, never seen anyone come to collect a debt from her, and 8 weeks of filing snaps together into a question. You've been down here longer than anyone alive knows, I say. You told me that. Suzuka said the same thing about herself. You trade information for favors. You've watched every fight for years, and nobody owns you, and nobody's bound you, and you never go up onto the sand. I sit down across from her. Who are you, Mitsuki? Really? Because I've filed you under later since the day we met, and I've run out of later. Mitsuki looks at me for a long moment, and then she smiles. The real one, the one that's always a little sad. I was the first, she says. First expendable hero the summoning ever rolled, long before you. Bad gift worse than yours, if you can believe it. A gift so useless I won't even tell you what it is, because you'd laugh and then feel bad for laughing. She leans back against the wall. They sent me down here to generate coin and die usefully, same as you, decades ago. And I couldn't fight my way out, because my gift was garbage and my body was ordinary, and I wasn't a player the way you turned out to be. I couldn't read the system into an exploit. So I did the only thing I could. I made myself the one thing this place can't function without and can't own. Information. I know everything that happens below the sand. Every fighter, every gift, every debt, every rot in the arena's ledger. That's worth more than any fighter, and it's the one asset the binding can't leash because you can't bind knowledge. A pause. So I've sat down here for a very long time, trading intel for favors, keeping myself indispensable and unbeatable and utterly, completely stuck. Alive. Free. And going nowhere, forever, because I could survive the system, but I could never break it. I sit with it, and the whole shape of her clicks into place, the free intel, the warnings, the long game folded too tight to read. And then you bet on me, I say, the rookie who asked about the water schedule. You've been placing that bet since the first day, not for a favor. For someone who could do the thing I couldn't, Mitsuki says quietly. Break it. Actually break it, not just survive it. I've watched 100 fighters come through here, and every one of them tried to win the game as written. You looked at the game and said this is exploitable, and I have been waiting decades for someone to say that and mean it and be right. Her eyes are bright in a way I haven't seen. The favor I called in the listen and change one, clean not soft, that was me investing in the bet. Making sure you'd live long enough to be what I bet you were. Every free piece of intel after was me protecting the investment. She spreads her hands. The expendable hero law is abolished, copier. The first of us, me, will be the last of us. Nobody gets sent down here to die usefully anymore. That's my real reward. Not a favor. A world slightly less cruel than the one that made me indispensable and stuck for decades. She almost laughs. I bet on the one fighter who kept his word, and he kept it all the way to the throne. That's the whole con. That was always the whole con. You could leave now, I say. The law's gone. You don't have to be indispensable anymore. You could go up. See the sky. Mitsuki is quiet for a moment. Maybe, she says. Someday. It's strange, wanting to leave a cage you spent decades making comfortable. She looks at me. But not yet. Because you're going to do something with all this. I can see it on your face. You've got the shape of a plan face, and I want to know what it is before I go find the sky. She's right, of course. I do have the shape of a plan. It's been forming since the throne room, since the moment the law fell and I stood there realizing that abolishing the law was necessary and completely insufficient, because a law is words, and the machine that made it is people, and people who spent their lives believing strength is destiny don't stop believing it because a law changed. The portal home's still sealed, I say. I checked. I asked Rika directly. Whatever brought me here, there's no return summoning, no way back to my world, not that anyone knows. It's the same locked door with no handle I filed away my first week and never found a way to pull on, only now I've asked the one person who'd know, and there's nothing to pull. I'm not going home, I say it plainly, because I've had 3 days to feel it, and I've filed it, and it's a closed door. No point pulling on it. So I'm staying, and I'm going to build something, and I want you in it, so I'll tell you the shape. Tell me the shape, Mitsuki says. Every summoned hero who comes here from now on comes without the expendable law, I say. Which is better, but they still come confused, dropped into a war-torn world, appraised by their gift, told they're weak or strong before they've had a chance to be anything. And the weak ones? The bad rolls. The ones like you, like me, they still get written off. Not sent to die anymore, but written off. Told they're worthless because their gift is worthless. I lean forward. And that's a lie. It was always a lie. I'm the proof it's a lie. The worst gift in the world topped the whole Colosseum, and it did it because I stopped believing the appraisal and started reading the system. That's not a gift. It's a skill. It can be taught. Mitsuki goes very still the way she does when I've said a true thing. You're going to teach them, she says. The weak ones. You're going to teach them to do what you did. I'm going to build a school, I say. Here, at the Colosseum, in the one place that spent forever proving the weak stay weak. Every summoned hero who rolls a bad gift, every fighter who's been told they're worthless, I'm going to teach them that a system built by strong people always assumes you'll play strong, and that nobody defends a locked door, and that timing is a rule, and rules belong to whoever bothers to read them. I feel the whole thing settle. The last folder, the one that isn't a plan for a fight, but a plan for a life. I cleared this game. Now I want to teach other people how to break it. Because I got lucky, I got a cellmate who bet on me. A rule about clean not soft, a team I built out of enemies. The next weak kid who gets dropped into a summoning hall and laughed at shouldn't have to get lucky. They should just have to learn. Mitsuki looks at me for a long, long moment, and then she does something she's never done in 8 weeks. She reaches out and grips my shoulder, once, the way Ren does, the way you touch someone you've decided is family. You know what the best part of the con is? She says quietly. I bet on you to break the system. And you did. But you didn't stop at breaking it. You're going to teach it to break. She almost laughs, and there's something wet in it. I spent decades being indispensable because I was scared and stuck. You're going to spend the rest of your life making the weak unscared. That's a better reward than I bet on. That's a better world than I dared hope for. So you're in, I say. Copier, Mitsuki says. I'm your first teacher. I know every gift, every fighter, every exploit below the sand. You want to teach the weak to break the game? You're going to need someone who's read every game there is. She grins, the real one, sad and bright at once. I've been down here decades waiting for a reason. You're it, now get me out of this straw. I've got a school to help you build. I stand, and I offer her my hand, the same hand I offered Ren in the infirmary, and Hebe on the sand, and Sarah after the wall came down, and Mitsuki takes it, and I pull the first person who ever bet on me up out of the straw and the dark and toward the daylight. And upstairs, in a barracks with a locked door, a flame executioner and a speed goddess and a samurai and a veteran and a general and a healer are waiting, no longer bound, no longer servants, just staying, because they chose to. I've got a school to build. And for the first time since a summoning circle swallowed my bedroom floor, I know exactly what I'm building, and it isn't a way home. It's a home.